I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Candida Hunter.
Here.
Susan McAlpine.
Here.
Ashley Pascal.
Here.
Diane Singer.
Here.
Dr. Bear will be arriving later this morning. We have a quorum. Okay, Ashley.
All right, audience of any citizen, this is the time for the public to comment. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Citizens wishing to comment will be limited to one opportunity to speak, and the president of the board will limit the time for individual presentations and the total time for all presentations.
To go around and see who's would like to speak, we'll start with Lake Havasu.
There are no members this morning to address the board.
Thank you. How about Bullhead?
Good morning, Madam Chair, President Klippenstein. Let me first apologize for my casual appearance. We are kicking off our Earth Day celebration here on the Bullhead City campus. So I'm going to be stepping away to join other bighorns in multiple events that are going to be happening in and around our campus. But at the present time, there are no speakers here to address the board. Thank you.
Thank you. North Mohave?
Madam President, there are no citizens here who wish to address the board at this time.
Thank you. And at the Kingman campus, no one there, we're all here. So how about here at Beale Street?
Good morning, Madam Chair. I don't believe there's any citizens wishing to address the board.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item number 5, the staff council report. Kim Hiller.
Sorry, I had to find my unmute button. Good morning, Madam Chair, Dr. Klippenstein, and members of the board. We had our staff council meeting on Wednesday. Jennifer Picard did provide a brief overview of the sick leave donated sick leave threshold. It was comprehensive and really clarified a lot of information for our staff and faculty. So I just want to say thank you to her. We did vote on the creation of a mentorship team charter. And so MCC Staff Council is moving forward with the creation of a mentorship program. We're really excited about it. This is just the first step. Other steps will be the approval of the team charter and then actually getting to work on that program. So again, we're just really excited about that. Some other items that we discussed included professional development, and Jenny Dixon there created a framework for us that we hope will be instituted in the next fiscal year, allowing for departments to have an equitable access to professional development funds. And our next staff council meeting will be June 13th. And our elections are upcoming. So we'll be replacing 5 members of our staff council.
Okay, thank you very much. Faculty council report, Dr. Kuzma.
Is today Math Olympics?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, today's Math Olympics and Dr. Kuzma is not on. He's dealing with that down in Lake Havasu.
Okay.
And I don't think there's a replacement scheduled to step in his place today. They and or Candace does not appear to be on.
Okay, so we'll skip that report for now since Dr. Kuzma's a math Olympian. Something I have never wanted to be.
Or could be.
Okay, the consent agenda. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any one member. Items not removed will be adopted by general consent without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda. So we have 4 items: the March 15th meeting minutes, March 31st month-end human resources reports, March 31st, month-end financial reports, and the culinary 114 new course fee. Would there anyone like to discuss?
I have some questions and some concerns. One of the, as I went over these figures, and I am not kidding when I say I have an MED, not an MBA or a CPA. The numbers are astronomical for this particular month's meeting. We're talking $1,700,000+ in consent. So I had a little bit of concern. I read the financial reports, but what I found missing from my little brain was that there were no running totals of expenditures for a student housing project. And there was no update, and actually, I actually just said it. I didn't have an update from the chief financial officer about where those totals were in relation to $1.7 million in approvals that are going to be requested. But the budget narrative mentioned in the budget narrative that a significant amount of money that would go towards some of the items that were requested to approve was expected within the next 2 to 6 weeks.
May I ask would you like to have that removed from the consent agenda?
Right, thank you.
Consent agenda, because I would be happy to have that pulled out so we can have discussion.
Okay, good.
Yes, so I would have a motion to withdraw that one item and move forward on the other ones. Is there a motion on the floor? Ashley, can you make a motion on that?
You want me to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly which document.
So you want
I move that we remove the March 31st, 2024 month and financial reports from the consent agenda.
and to approve as presented other reports?
We will do that as a second one.
Separately, okay. Okay, so we have a motion. All those in favor? Aye. Did Candida vote?
Yes,
Okay, great. Okay, no opposed, and Julie just walked in, thank you.
I did.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's okay.
Okay. And
Okay,
then I move that we approve the remaining consent agenda, A, B, and D as written.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. So we pulled out the financial reports. So should let's have a discussion on that? Or do we want to ask specific questions about that? Yes.
Madam Chair,
Ashley.
I think I may have interrupted Susan's comment, so I was hoping that maybe you would continue.
You want me to say them all again? Okay. Basically, as I mentioned, I'm not a CPA or a BA, and I'm really concerned about the extreme amount of funds that we're going to be looking at and asked to approve this month with $1.7 million and over the next few months to few years. And what was significantly missing for me as I was trying to make decisions and decide whether to support some of these items or not was that I was missing information like running totals of expenditures, say, for our student housing. We have a really nice report and we have a nice narrative, but things are all combined. And to me, when we're talking about all of these building projects, I need to know where we stand on them before I move forward and start to approve a significant amount of money. And generally, when I was looking at the figures, taxpayers pay roughly 62% of everything that we approve to support MCC and our 4 campuses. And part of what is concerning me is we're talking about significant numbers with a increasingly fragile US economy. We apparently were just warned by the International Monetary Fund about our deficit. So there's not going to be a whole lot of federal money probably coming our way within the next couple of years. The state of Arizona budget is 1.8 to 2.2 billion dollars in deficit that may continue to 2027, 2029, which is another significant piece. And rental and housing prices and mortgage prices are going up substantially. And Mohave County is not a rich county. So in the future, don't be surprised that I'm looking at everything really carefully, really conservatively, thinking about cause and effect and the relationship between the value of what we are considering versus educational value. I think that's where I am in a nutshell.
So let me ask a question of Dr. Klippenstein. Is it possible to take that month-end financial report and break out the information so that it addresses Susan's inquiries in general? I think would you like that additional information, Ashley and Julie, Candida?
Picking up on it, so.
Would you like to see information in more detail, divvied up the way Susan described? Yes.
Okay. I do think the narratives are helpful. The different broad line items the definitions are helpful. It's not something that I am familiar with. So every month I have to remind myself what does all of this mean? But even with that, I'm not clear and wouldn't feel overly confident explaining our budget when it came to any specific items like the housing project and being able to talk about exactly where that falls in line. So having said that, maybe I imagine it would probably be a lot to ask for every detailed thing in the budget to be provided, but maybe we have specific priorities that we want to monitor, you know, and we kind of set those as we go along.
So there's my question to you, Dr. Klippenstein. Is it possible to blow out that report so it's more informative, more specific to these specific points so that we understand it better and it might help clear up any questions? Would that be helpful to you, Susan?
Yeah, and I'm not looking for every nut, bolt, and screw that goes into this multi-million-dollar 15-year plan. But I am looking for, okay, we're talking, what, 7 million for the housing, where, what, 60-75%? I noticed it was all closed in when I drove by yesterday. Our budget was 14 million. We have now expended, $10 million. We're over in these areas and we're under in these areas, and we expect to complete. It just, when I built the house, I knew where things were standing. And I think when we're talking about millions of dollars for taxpayers, we need to have a little bit better understanding of where we are financially with the situation. Never mind adding the next 15 years and a couple $100 million.
So can we reformat the report so that our significant projects are highlighted with more detail? Is that possible?
Or even add sheet. I like this. I can look at this, like Ashley says, I understand it. Sometimes I miss reading the narrative, and Candida reminded me to go back and look at the narrative that answered some questions but didn't. So, that's good. Just add a sheet for the major projects.
Right. So
we're not going to have 5 of them at the same time.
We blow that out.
Yeah.
More informative.
Madam Chair, members of the board, absolutely. What we can do is take a look at this and provide supplemental on larger project items. So that could include housing, and we can provide an update on where we're at with spending and payout already with the project. So that's not difficult to do. Of the 5 million approved, where we're at, let's say we're at 4 million already paid into it. we believe this much will be coming back to us in contingency. We can do that and project that out. That's not a problem at all. So we can do that if that's the one. I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Susan, but you mentioned the 1.7 million that you're looking at approving in the budget. I think that's what you're talking about in the budget I'm sorry,
In the agenda.
today.
Today, yeah.
Right. And again, 8.7 or 871,000 of that, and once we get to it, the compensation package is budget for next year. It wouldn't reflect in this budget. The other monies that we're requesting with IT support is built in this budget as upcoming expenses as we have built the budget at the beginning of the year. These were items. Now we're just bringing it to you because they're over the $75,000 max. So of the 1.7 million today, again, it's a split between two fiscal years, and that would not have been indicated in here separately, but we can definitely take a look at the larger scale items and provide some supplementals, not a problem.
Okay, so we won't approve this report for now. When we carry that over into next month, is that allowed to carry over since we need more information, or do we want to entertain a motion to approve it as is?
Yeah, I would entertain a motion to approve it with modifications in the following months.
Okay,
I would be,
okay.
not unhappy with that.
Is that your motion?
Yes, that is my motion. I might make a motion
Second?
that we approve this with modifications in the following months.
Fabulous.
As discussed.
Fabulous. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, great. You have a vote. All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Okay, great. Good.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
welcome, thank you.
All right, and next item would be the enrollment, item number 8, which is enrollment and retention reports.
Yep, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Klippenstein. We have 3 of our most excellent team members here today, more than 3, actually 5 or 6, that are going to present in response to last month when some of you said, really like to see a filterable dashboard that we can go in there and look at and get data. So Shelley's going to start, and Shelley has produced that for us, and you'll be able to have access, or you already have access to this. It's on our website. She's going to do a little demo for us, and then Jack and Anna are going to talk about retention and enrollment and degree conferrals.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. So this is going to be available for the public if you go to mcc.mohave.edu and you go into the institutional research site specifically, you'll be able to see some general information about the college, the office mission statement, as well as visions and values, and overall enrollment, a couple of static tables, but the part that we wanted to emphasize today for you is our interactive dashboard. This is based on fall enrollment and spring enrollment. So if you wanted to see fall enrollment, this is a selector up here that you would like to use. Otherwise, when I click here, select spring. We are putting up here completed terms. So the current spring semester that we are currently in will not be available until after May. But the beauty to this is once you select the term, you will get 3 graphs for each representing each of those terms, and you'll be able to filter some of these items and play around with it. Let's see if I can move out place for a second here. Excuse me while I do this sideways. In here, you'll be able to select a couple of criteria. So you can select age groups, campus, full-time enrollment, dual enrollment generation, and then from there, you can even split them a little more. So if you wanted to look, say, our campus breakout for each of these terms, our graph will give you the breakdowns down here.
It didn't stick.
Thank you. So it'll give you the breakout for each of those terms by campus. And if you wanted to refine this a little more within each of these campus, let's say you wanted to know gender, you want to go here, go down to gender, and it'll split it even more. So now for each of these campuses, you'll have the male and female breakdowns. And if you hover over any of these bars, it'll give you the actual number if it's too small, because once you get past age group or some of the breakouts are a little harder, the number may become tinier, but you can hover over any of these to be able to see the description of all of those. To reset this, because I know you guys are gonna have all kinds of fun. To reset this and forgot how to do this, there's a little button down here That says to reset back to view. So what it'll do is it'll bring you back to the original view, which is the 3 big graphs. And you can play around with it again. There is a section, and I don't see it on the screen, Chris. Where'd it go? I don't see the high school information.
Yeah, it's there.
Is that bar at the bottom of the way? If you click accept, maybe the bar is in the way. Take that bar away, click
The
accept so that
The cookies.
the border goes away. Yeah, there you go.
Is that thank you? It's still not there, which is very odd. Oh, we're gonna have to look at it, but on our demo, we did have high school information, and you would be able to select whether it was Mohave County or outside of Mohave County, and I'm not quite sure why it's not displaying. So I apologize for that. Any questions so far?
Has this been on the website or on our page already?
It is currently on our page right now, yes.
I do think the high schools do show on the page, because I had looked and I thought, I think I've seen this.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know why it's not showing up on this
Yeah.
screen, but yes, it's.
I
it
have
was-
pulled them up already.
Thank you, Julie. Yes, we did put this on our website, I wanna say less than a week ago.
Yeah.
So it is there, it's available.
Great
And that way it's accessible, like I said, by the public. If anybody has questions,
tool.
we do have, some of our contact information available on the directory as well as on the bottom, I believe. But, we do have a couple of more, the most exciting one was this. We do have a couple more interactive dashboards. This one is comparing, us against community colleges that offer the same type of degrees. So this one is available based on some data we get from, the census. And you can go back a couple more years in here instead of just 3 semesters. So that is available for, we don't have 22 again because we're waiting for this website to populate these 2 numbers before we can create our comparison. So we are keeping an eye on, they usually release that on July. So hopefully after July, we'll be able to update to include our new year. We do also have our fall to fall retention numbers. And then if you keep scrolling, this is the number of all degrees and certificates. And you can select whether you wanted to look at division, what these are, or you can apply a filter. You go down to areas of interest. And these will, and again, if you hover over any of these, it'll give you the number and percentage. This is all academic years, but you can narrow down to just the most recent available completed year. Any questions so far? It was great.
That's cool. Thank you. Very good. Very informative.
Yes, we're very excited about it. We're working on putting up a couple more, but those are work in progress.
So where it looks at data from other colleges, this is Tableau pulls that out. That's not stuff that we don't populate that. Tableau does that. It goes out and pulls it out itself.
We go to the the NCES, which is National Center for Education Statistics, and we grab that information for those community colleges. We have in the back end of this, there is a spreadsheet that is maintained by us, which then generates the Tableau view that you see here.
So we're looking at the data for specific colleges that.
But the other colleges are populated by Tableau Public,
Yes.
not us. I think that's the
Yes.
question.
Oh, then yes.
Right, my question, others, right,
Are populated by Tableau Public. See it?
Public.
See where it says Tableau Public right there?
right. Mhm.
And our stuff's just on there.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking that is because I'd like to know what we're comparing ourselves against.
Right.
If we're looking at all community colleges for Tableau Public, that would be helpful as opposed to stuff we're populating into the report.
Right.
Okay, yes, Ashley.
Question.
Yes, absolutely.
So now I have questions.
That's okay.
So it sounds like, so this isn't necessarily live data. It has been, you've done the research and populated a source that then on the website, people can go in and manipulate and pull these different charts.
Correct.
So then
Change them.
how, yeah, that sounds like a lot of back-end work. And so I imagine that's not done on a daily basis. So is this an annual poll of data or
So
more
it
frequent,
depends,
less frequent?
it depends on the dashboard, it's not a problem. This is an annual because it's based on academic years. So because we gather this information from the National NCES, they don't provide the information until IPEDS, which is Intercourse Secondary Education System, which is once a year. So they don't release national or state data until once a year. So for us to compare against other institutions, we have to wait for a whole year for another to get the other data. We have ours, obviously, but we don't have someone else's.
And they're 2 years behind.
Yes, as far as this fall or spring data, this is something that is coming out of our system ourselves. So we do have that available as soon as the semester ends and we make that a static snapshot, which is after the term has ended. Because this is part of a public dashboard, we can't connect it to our live data. It puts us in the danger zone for hackers and things to go through this portal and kind of get through the back end to our system and get to student information, birthdays, personal things that we don't want it to happen. So in order for that to be avoided, we take a snapshot of that, download it, and we scrub it, that's terminology we use, to basically de-identify all of those records. So if somebody were to hack into the back end of this dashboard, all they will see is an Excel spreadsheet with numbers that really don't mean anything to them. They can't relate them back to a specific student, a specific person of any kind. So that's the whole reason why public dashboards have to be more of a static instead of a live connection, mainly for security purposes. But yes, our term enrollment, that'll get done after the semester ends. For this spring, it'll end in May, so we're hoping to have it up and running by the middle to end of June for the new spring semester. So in this case, if we were to go here and you were to select spring, instead of having 2 bars, you'll end up with the third one for this spring semester that we're just ending. For the one that's down here, we tend to have to wait until after July is usually when they start posting the new data and we can obtain it. The same goes for this one. And then this is also declared students. So this is the number of graduates. Again, this is year-based, so we would wait until after our June 30th graduates have been taken care of so that we can put a completed year so that you don't have piecemealed information. We do tend to, and I didn't see that, I think we moved it. We do try to have a little thing that says when we will update it next, but we will make sure that it's up to date. So we tend to put a little note that just says this data will be updated on, whatever month of whatever year, so that it gives people an idea. If they went to looking for a specific term, they realize that they can come back, say, in a couple of weeks and hopefully it's up and running with the new data.
So if you do a control minus, I think it'll bring the screen down. Can we do that? Sorry.
Mine looks the same way.
Yeah. Just so they can see that high school stuff. There it is.
There it is. I'm like, where'd it go? So here's a high school filter.
Just cut off.
And the high school filter gives you an option of Mohave County, outside of Mohave County, and unknown. The reason we did this is because it is the high school information we put here is that of what the student has given us on their application. And obviously we have students coming from a lot of different places. So that way, if you were to select Mohave County, this high school right here narrows it down to just a list of the Mohave County high schools instead of you guys seeing things from like down in Scottsdale or somewhere in Michigan or somewhere in New York. This is just us local high schools, and you can select any of these to filter these numbers even more. So if I were to keep Kingman High School, it narrows down a little more to the number that we have. So, and again, to reset this, because like I said, I know you guys are gonna have all kinds of fun, just back to this one right here. It resets everything back to the standard, and then we can start from square one. So.
Thank you.
Did your question get answered?
Yes, very thoroughly. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions? I can't see Candida, so Candida, do you have questions? No. Okay,
She's had to call back in on her cell because of the reception out there, so.
you just watch her.
The buttons are a little harder to find to use and unmute.
It's just, I can't see if her hand goes up.
Her hand is not up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Good work.
Thank you. Okay, next item, number 9.
Oh, we still have two more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One
Go
for
on.
retention and one for enrollment.
They're probably fine if you keep on
Yeah,
going.
So Crit, it's the persistence.
What we wanted to do is share, usually in May, the May board meeting is just before commencement, or has been in the past. And sometimes in the past, we would share conferrals and amount of degrees, and since our upcoming May board meeting is after,
Bottom middle.
we wanted to make sure we shared some information with you.
There you go. You're welcome. It's just lagging on.
There we go.
Morning, board. This is my first opportunity to address you. I was very happy to do so today, and I'm going to walk through some of our data on persistence and retention. And we'll just start right in and go ahead and go to our next slide, slide 2 here, to talk about this. And of course, where we start with new student cohorts, right? So new students and track them all the way through. So this is a slide that does that. And what I really wanted to point out to you was looking at the trend over time from 2018 to 2023, we see that the rate of persistence has been going up. And anything I've seen going over 70% is good and really trending in the right direction. So very exciting to see that. And for me coming in as a new person, seeing that, know that there's a lot of really good stuff going on, and I'll highlight a couple of those things.
Could you share why analyzing persistence is important, just for public information?
Well, yeah, why persistence is important, because we want to get students to the finish line, right? So really when you start it, you want to start measuring it immediately. So from one term, the beginning term, to the next term, to the next term, so the data can tell us, you know, our persistence rates, is it going up or going down? And the work that we're doing to keep the students enrolled in the student services realm, what kinds of things can we do to address that? So we're looking at indicators that would help us know what to do, that we're going in the right direction, or we're doing really good stuff, and or do we need to change some things up?
Thank you.
And then new student persistence from spring to fall. So this would be new students that start in the spring term and continue on to the next fall. And this is one for us to be interrogating, as new students that start in the spring quarter, if you compare to the previous slide, they don't persist as well as those that start in the fall term. So again, there's a lot of work for us to interrogate that and look at what we can do to better serve those students and what we can possibly do to keep them persistent. Hold on a second, I don't know what's happening there. Here, hold on a second. Let me take the reins. Okay.
You're inserting slides. I say deleting slides. No, I'm deleting slides. Yes.
Okay, and now we're talking about continuing students. So these are students that started like looking at the fall of 2018 data. They were here at previous terms. So this is trying to look at students that have persisted from term to term, and they haven't stopped out for more than a year. They're counted as continuing students. And here again, we've seen that rate has been fairly consistent from fall to spring. So that is something that is good at this point for us. We can go to the next slide. And we look at continuing student persistence. Now you see these numbers going down. So one of the things I want to point out to you is that this is actually, we take out those students that have actually completed. So they would logically go down if students completed a certificate or a degree. So it's gone down. But again, so we first continue to monitor. And we look at this as kind of a benchmark, if you will, for our other student cohorts and looking at trends. So this is one that we'll want to investigate a little bit further. But again, please be mindful of the fact that this also included the students that have completed a certificate or degree have been taken out of those numbers. That's one of the reasons why they have gone down. And one of the big ones here that has a lot of room for us to interrogate and work on is looking at our fall to fall retention rates. This is really good. So for someone like me coming and seeing this from 2018 to 2023, 24, that's a significant jump, and it's trended forward over time. And I wanted to say a couple of things that have been in place here starting in 2019 Case management advising, that's assigning a student to an advisor that stays with them from first enrollment all the way through to completion. And then we also added in 2021, 22, student success coaches. Those are coaches that work with the more at-risk students, students that are on probation, students that are coming back from being suspended. And those other indicators, we have an early alert system. So their early alerts that come from faculty to our student success coaching staff, so they can immediately reach out to those students. So those are two things that the college has done that I think have had a significant impact on moving those trends in the right direction. So anyway, so that's the conclusion of my report for you this morning. Any other questions for me?
Any questions? I just have a comment. If we go back to the earlier slides, retention, I don't know, maybe three or four. I don't honestly know yet because that blank one, I lost track of the number. But wherever the retention was, I think it was fall to spring was the first one.
Oh, the persistence one.
And the, yeah, well, that's fine place to start. The percent of persistence increased, but the numbers of new students decreased. Well, go back to what you just had up there a second ago.
Yeah, let me go back to that one. Was the new student one?
Well, let's just go back, to number 3. Go to number 3. Let's see what it said. There's a good place.
Yeah.
To start.
And these were the students that started in the spring term, continuing on to the fall term. So they were new in the spring of that.
Right, I understand that. My comment is that although persistence increased, the numbers of new students entering that cohort decreased. And somewhere there must be a if come maybe is the only thing I can think of. And I was wondering, what impacted the number? I don't know what part you have in this, your area. I'm not familiar with who does what, but it's one thing to consider persistence. Hooray, great. And for sure, I agree. But if there's less new students, it's good to see where we've got something going on. And I'm wondering what the reason would be for that persistence. You mentioned 2 wonderful factors. That was what the early alert. What did I do? Did student financial assistance increase? Was there a correlation between the numbers of monies coming in?
Right. Yeah, and those are further things that we need to check into and find out more about that. If you look back historically, some of that is also related to federal funds that came in during COVID.
Right.
So that was a significant factor. And and spring tends to have fewer new students. That's just between fall and spring. And so in our department, what we really focus on is really the support all the way through to completion. So after they've been enrolled and all that, so that's what we do. And but it's also in coordination with lots of other departments. So with Anna's department, with recruiters, with financial aid office, all of those things. It really does take a team to help make the students successful. So those are the things that we're working on in the collaborative effort as well. And you know what? I skipped slides here, and I want to get to the returning students. This is another cohort that we look at. I apologize for skipping that. But returning student persistence. These are students that have come back after, as you see, after having stopped out. This last year, it's a state of 59%. That's really good to see that for returning students that come back. And sometimes they only stay for 1 term. They may only have 1 term to complete, but they have been out of college for over a year, basically.
But there were 250 less than happened, 1, 2, 3, 6 years before. What is the lag for that? That's the returning total is what I'm asking about.
Yeah, the returning total, and that's something that we're going to be investigating a lot more.
Okay, that's
because we don't know. Some of these are students that may have come back from being on suspension where they've had to be out for a year. Some may have been out for a year or 2 years or whatever, just coming back. One of the things we want to be able to do is find ways to, when those students do stop out from us, how do we continue to engage with them even when they are no longer here, right? So that we can continue some line of dialogue or communication so that we can draw them back. So that's an important piece. That's something for us to work on.
Differences back then too,
Possibly.
for what returning meant.
Possibly.
Would you? Yeah, I missed something here.
The definition of returning
Great, that would be.
back then was different.
Thank you, that's.
Oh, thank you.
How?
Yeah.
How was it different?
So I'm thinking,
Oh, good.
it's
Always.
possibly, and I'll look at Shelley too, continual and returning. So we used to just have two buckets, new students that have never touched MCC, taken a class. And I believe it was returning, which meant continual and returning. So students that were still enrolled in a year and those that had skipped out a year or more. And there were just two buckets. So since then, obviously, there's three, with continual discussion between Jack, myself, and institutional research regarding how we break out those different populations and strategies to have them successfully enroll, complete, continue, return, things of that nature.
Thanks, that clears up a lot for me.
And the other slide that I skipped was this other returning student persistence.
What's the second, Jack?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Candida has her hand up.
Yes. Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you.
Well, you can't see.
No, this is a little, yeah, that'd be good.
It's hard, it's confusing.
Ms. Candida?
Can you see her? She's stubborn, it takes a minute.
I know.
Amy can see it, so she announces.
These are ours.
Still.
Currently.
Can I make a comment while we're waiting? May I make a comment?
Yeah,
while we're waiting?
absolutely.
Okay, and then if Candida, whenever you just cut me off. I was just gonna comment that it's, this is interesting data to look at, and I appreciate the way it was put together for us. And I think, of course, then it opened, like, now there's more questions to discuss. I think it's important for us to have dialogue, because this helps us with our metrics for the goals that we set around the successful achievement of their pathway, their particular degree or program. So it also allows us to have some questions, because I'm sure a lot of this has to do with life and things outside of just performance in the classroom. And I think that's important, and it's part of our strategic plan to be part of that community solution developing process. So I just wanted to comment on that, because this data can just show us a different way of looking at how are we supporting the community through their completion.
And if I may, I don't know, if Candida, it sounds like she was chatting, question, just to make
Candida
sure.
available? She just said, don't take anything, but Amy's reading it. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The idea is what we normally do in September and October is provide a much more detailed, descriptive, granular review of our retention. So this is more of a broader overlay, which allows Jack to then take the information to continue to work with his team and with Anna's team. What can we take a look at now, because it does share a number, but usually in October and November, or excuse me, September and October, we bring up a descriptive breakdown with our enrollment report. So that will dig into a lot more of the granular type of items. So that's what we'll be able to do this upcoming spring, because then we'll have the completion of this year on the books for us to take a look at. So that will come up, that will help maybe address some of those questions on specific populations by campus areas and all of that.
Right, yeah, and I guess what, in my mind, I was differentiating that retention and completion from persistence, because I think, if I understood this correctly, it's more about that pursuit toward their end goal. So these numbers, tell me if this is incorrect. These numbers we're looking at here, for example, on the screen, are removing those students. This is taking into account students who maybe moved on to a university or completed their program, right? So we're able to see, did they persist in their pursuit?
Right,
Okay.
right.
And
These
so if I
are
could-
leading indicators for the eventual outcome. So that's what.
Great.
And if I can leave you with one thought to remember, and you can ask me about this again in the future, but what our intentional work around this is inescapable engagement. And what I mean by that is the college will be very intentional to continue to engage students that are here and re-engage students that aren't here that have stopped out. So it's redesigning all of our services, all of our support with that goal in mind. And then we will see more of the completion numbers that Hannah's going to talk about. So if there's no more questions.
Oh, we're waiting for Candida.
Candida.
Oh,
There's
yes,
still one more.
Candida?
There is one.
I will go ahead and read it out for, her question is how does summer session impact persistence between spring and fall?
Shelley, can you help with that? I think that that's included where the summer term is included
Yes,
in
so
those numbers.
in order for summer to be accounted, if a student is new during the summer term, they are included as part of the fall cohort. So if the student started in the summer, take one course, continued on to the fall with additional courses, then they're counted in that fall term so that they can move forward and we can track their persistence from that fall term to spring.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is any more from Candida?
I don't want
No. I have a question. I'd love to see how, we stack up against other Arizona community colleges or colleges that have, like demographics to us. I think that'd be interesting to see that data. And because I'd like to understand why we're different.
Yeah, I can answer, 70% for fall to spring is nationally normal. So Arizona normal as well, depending upon the college. And then slide 8, which is fall to fall retention, it's mid-50s nationally, and we're at 53.
Okay,
So
that's good to
we're
know.
not too bad.
I'd
We're
love to
pretty
see
good
that.
trying to get better. That's what we're trying to do.
But I'd love to see that in the table, because I think it makes it an interesting snapshot.
Yeah.
It's a benchmark that I think would be good to track. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Next up.
I wanted to ask Jack how he liked his first presentation.
Well, I love the questions. Keep them coming.
You glad you came?
Yeah. Yes.
So we're going to put enrollment briefly and then come back to this. That's perfect. Will you go ahead and make that on the screen, please? Thank you. So, good morning, Anna Masterson, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein, Dr. Culver. I want to introduce, I'd be remiss to not introduce some of my staff that's here, who may help me with the presentation, depending on questions or additional information. I have Tiffany Gaffney. Will you please stand up? Tiffany Gaffney. All the details very intricate regarding the high school population. And then I also have Tricia Haynes here. She is the registrar. What I'm presenting regarding completion is a lot of work, not all the work, but a lot of work by her team regarding what our completion numbers look like. And she also is the lead for commencement with a lot of help from other staff members as well.
All right, may I make a request here? Sure. If you click on the bottom right, there's a little weird symbol on the right. Yeah. Is that there? Thank you. Thank you. All right, so spring I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, not a lot of movement, not surprisingly considering the time of year. So we have about 2 weeks until the end of classes. No more additional start dates, right? So right now we're pretty stagnant, but we're ending up really high. Very exciting. So we're ending up at about a 9% increase in headcount over spring of last year and almost a 14% increase in credit count as well. So students are taking a little bit more credits as well, and you're able to see the breakdown, but again, not a lot of new from what I reported in the prior board meeting, specifically regarding spring. Just some time to specifically talk about dual enrollment. Dr. Baird isn't here, but I know it's something that hits close to home for her. So this, we currently have 722 students with our dual enrollment breakdown. You're able to see what that breakdown looks like. DE Online specifically in this table encompasses students that are enrolled at different high schools but taking online courses. So there's different ways that we can break that out, but that specifically is what that involves here. One thing to note, if you look at our spring dashboard for dual, you'll see a count of 731. The difference between 722 and 731 is withdrawals. Withdrawals specifically, students that started the course and for some reason decided they weren't going to continue and withdrew from the course.
So the 722 are the students that are still enrolled and active in dual, with us having about 9 that have withdrawn. So that's the difference in the 2 dashboards if you were to look at them, but you're able to see that breakdown as well. The other perspective we wanted to give was overall a little bit early college and funding, which you can tell we're still looking at and diving into and adjusting as well. So in your board packet, you received everything that's in black currently. So you saw the counts and everything else. Excitingly, we found more data to be able to adjust that. So as Shelley noted, with our data, there is some adjustments. There's multiple dashboards. So this information was taken from a dashboard specifically focused on K-12 that was filtering different. So when we found those additional students and what that looked like, we adjusted those numbers to the red to present a more accurate picture to the board. So what you see here right now for our spring students that are involved in or some type of early college, those that take advantage of Early Start Scholarship. So that is the funding outside of dual, as well as JTED Wave. So these are students that are enrolled in high school and taking a college class outside of it. And so you're able to see we have approximately 1,400 credits that come currently from that Early Start Scholarship. About 260 students that are utilizing that currently for spring. And then also a few years ago, we broadened the Early Start to allow for students that had just graduated from high school and using it the next year as well. And so you're able to see high school grads using Early Start Scholarship, essentially the 13th year of funding and continuing it into MCC is 312 for a credit count, about 57 for a head count. You're able to see the breakdown with JTED Wave as well. Really great partnership there. So those that are using their funding, and then Tiffany, as well as some of their staff, work directly with those students as well as enrolling. You're able to see the credit count there, about 1,200, about 200 head count. And then also they've been able to expand some of their funding as well that goes beyond high school. You're looking at about a 600 credit count and about a 76 head count. And then of course, dual credit is at the end with that number 731 and about 4,200 credits. So overall, that's kind of the early college funding piece. The prior slide with dual enrollment was just focused on those students, of course, that are enrolled specifically in dual enrollment where they take one class and they're enrolled in both high school and college.
So, and if I may, you may have noticed on the dual slide, some of the high schools have lower numbers than normal. It's because they don't have the faculty that's qualified to teach, but they show up in that early start number now because they're actually busing those students to our campus.
Yeah.
I've seen the buses on campus.
Yeah, and so it's not like Mohave High School isn't participating, they are. They're just doing it in both dual and concurrent at the same time.
And so the Early Start and the Wave JTED ends up as part of the 4253 or are separate from?
Separate from.
Separate from, okay.
So one thing to know is the funding is separate, but not necessarily the students. So it's possible that a student is utilizing an Early Start Scholarship. They're taking classes at high school and maybe coming out at night to take a class, but they're also enrolled in dual enrollment class during the day. So maybe they're taking a math class that accounts for both high school and college. So it's possible that there's some duplication in those numbers regarding the number of students that are taking advantage of multiple. We see a fair amount of that as soon as students kind of start to see and parents start to see the different ways that they can really utilize and pay for early college. They really tend to take advantage. Tiffany is a great guide regarding this in being able to kind of plug different things in different scenarios. Early Start Scholarship has been a huge saving grace. Thank you to the board regarding our different ways that we can fund students. I've been able to say year over year with a lot of the high school population, chances are we can figure something out. We can figure some sort of payment out. I'm sure Tiffany would agree it's incredibly rare between these 3 funding models that we can't find a way to help a student pay for college in that high school dynamic. All right. Yes.
Any questions, Ashley?
Yes, this is great. Love to see these numbers. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, what do you think is holding this back? Why wouldn't we see even higher numbers?
I think I have a few thoughts, but Tiffany really deals with the market. Tiffany, do you wanna provide some comment on that?
Thank you, board, for having me. This is my first time as well, just like Jack, so I appreciate it. So some of the things is just scheduling, to be honest, not necessarily even on our end, it's just with the high schools and sports. We have a lot of, students have a lot of competing priorities, whether or not they're working or trying to do sports and things like that. So I know it's a real balance for our students to be able to juggle their high school day, they're trying to earn additional credit hours with us, and then doing sports and working on top of that. So I think it's just, there's not enough hours in the day, to be honest.
I think too, also working with the high school scheduling. So, obviously they're focused on their scheduling, what they need their high schools to or their high school students to complete. In a perfect world, those will always cross over, right? But they don't necessarily all the time. And so that's something that through instruction, we've been able to improve on, and JTED Wave, but there are still some scheduling conflicts there as well.
And if I may add, it's different at each school.
Yes, it is different at each
So we like to be secondary friendly, but it's their definition, it's not ours. Does that make sense?
We definitely want them to be able to graduate high school but also some of our stuff may not be able to line up with whether or not the student can have late start or early release.
Right. The homeschool students, are they under the early start then?
Early start and wave.
And, well, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
to that. Thank you.
And excuse me, I'm gonna choke. How many homeschool students are part of it?
We would have to look as far as a specific breakdown. So you're looking at JTED Wave and early start. So we do have that breakout that we can hand out.
Yeah, because I do have that.
That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Very interesting to know. I think a lot of it depends on the student themselves and what they want to accomplish. I had an opportunity to support some students doing some work at Lake Havasu High School and ASU, and the students that were involved, their philosophy and their approach was very different. Some were very aggressive, other ones were really kind of casual about it, and it spoke volumes about so much of this it depends on the student and what they want to do. And also if the parents are wanting them to do it versus they want to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions? Ashley, did you?
Wait to wash your hands.
Second questions?
Yeah, I did, thank you. And I appreciate this information.
Does Candida have a question?
Does not appear to be.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so summer, which will be here before we know it, at the end of May. So right now we are up in 2% headcount from the end of summer last year, as well as up 5% in credit count. Thanks to instruction as well as the efforts of our recruiters and advisors to get everybody in. So we expect to continue this momentum because obviously we still have a few weeks to go. As you all know, we do have the non-payment population that'll come up. Typically, that is a pretty small population, so we expect the same, as well as instruction and student success, continuing working with those students that don't necessarily participate right away to ensure that they remain in those classes as well. But very exciting to really be up from summer of last year at the end already. So kudos really to the entire team at MCC, really exciting work for summer. In being able to move forward. And then lastly, fall, I really won't talk too much about it. We're obviously still down, but lots of work, lots of time to still be done. So once the team at MCC gets summer under their belt, obviously fall will become more of a focus. One of the things that all staff are working on is as they advise a student, they are trying to advise them for multiple semesters. So that's something that we're still working on, but if a student comes in for spring, our system allows us to advise them if they're interested in summer, if they're interested in fall, forced to continually have those scheduling options. So hopefully we'll start to use some of that as well and be able to get more momentum at the very early stages rather than waiting for it all at that.
We're still at 30% of fall right now. 30% of last year's fall right now.
Right.
You hear a lot on the news about FAFSA, I can never use I'm always afraid to use the acronym.
Yeah.
And that we're 49th in the country for, people who, students who complete that. How does that fit into, any kind of lagging we're having right now? Is our institution impacted?
So there has been some lagging with FAFSAs and information's receiving of ICERs, different things like that. We're fortunate that we still have some time with fall. We are not in the same setting as a university perspective of it. And so Lisa Downey, Director of Financial Aid, and her team are consistently, I would think Dr. Culver receives at least one email a week with some sort of update. He also shares updates with us as well. So this isn't impacting it right now because of our non-payment. Now, if students had to show proof of payment right now, our numbers would look different for fall. But right now, it does not matter if they're payment plan, if they're self-pay, if they're planning on financial aid, if they're doing scholarships, anything like that, that doesn't hold anything back currently. As we get closer to fall, how they pay or if they're going to pay obviously becomes more important in looking at keeping that enrollment.
Thanks for clarifying.
Sure.
It's very erratic right now because I think Lisa told me a couple of weeks ago, she got 1,000 ICERs just like that. And then the next week got none. So I'm so sorry. They are student records, which tell us how to award students and the amount of financial aid that they're eligible for. Right? Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, and so we're fortunate to have that. If we had where students had to show payment to registrar, it would be something different. And that is my enrollment report. If there's no questions, I will jump to completion, hopefully pretty quick. All right.
Any questions from anyone about Candida? No? Good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And then I'm just going to go over completion super quick with commencement about 3 weeks away, May 10th. So very exciting. Trisha and her team have been doing a lot of work, specifically regarding what our completion just down at the bottom. A lot of more studies. I think it's like slide 7, maybe 9. Yep, and you can, there we go. Thank you. And can you go to, perfect. So at any rate, one of the things to note is that these numbers were pulled at the end of March. Trisha just pulled them again yesterday, so I'm going to provide an update, but giving her team some time to process and evaluate. So you can see the totals there. Today, our student population has grown. Those have submitted applications by about 150 or so. So we are over the 700 mark in looking at grad applications. Not all of them are conferred. And so that's one thing to note, but obviously the majority of them are conferred. You're able to see that breakdown of the 597 there. So we did have some that were 24 and younger, the 35%, 25 to 64. You can see that there, 65%. And honestly, thank you. It is interesting that we have 65 or older, it's 7. And again, this is the end of March. So that number may adjust a little bit, but certainly we have that interest and those completions as well.
Do you think it's retraining that's causing that number in the 25 to 64 age?
I look at Trisha.
I would think either retraining or the opportunity now their life has opened up for personal interest,
right?
Maybe as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So then the interest is within finding out who's going for a certificate or
so we'll talk a little bit about that too, not necessarily by age, but you'll be able to see that breakdown as well. But yes, it was very interesting to see that older population complete as well. This is conferrals, not students, this next chart. And so specifically, at the end of March, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, your right hand, we had 758 that we were showing in our applications. That number has grown by over 200 of conferrals. So one thing you'll know is that it's not 1-for-1, right? I just said we had over 700 students that have applied for graduation. We have over 900 applications currently that show the certificates and degrees. So with that, we do have some students that will be graduating with multiple things, multiple degrees, multiple certificates. Specifically, what this shows though is like when you look at gen ed and certificates, that 36 is, and the 9% is representative of the 415 total at the end. So 9% of our current certificates are gen ed based. 56% of our current certificates of 415 are CTE based, career and technical education. And then lastly, 35% is health. Again, these will adjust as Trisha's team continues as well. And the same applies for the degrees too. You're able to see all of that. But again, a lot of work still to be done. Students can be submitting applications all the way up to. Also, Trisha's team accommodates if any student shows up and believes that they should be walking and they want to walk, by all means, please do, and we will take care of anything else at the end. So we expect these numbers to only grow. Last year, we had a total of 769 students graduate with 970 conferrals. Right now, we're at 749 students, so just 20 students off of last year's, and 965 conferrals, so about 9 off of that. So we do expect to surpass those numbers. One thing to note that's going to add to this process, a lot of work by the registrar's office, is automated conferrals. And so essentially what this does is students sometimes when they apply for something or they don't apply for anything, they may have qualified to get an additional degree or certificate. Jason knows career and technical ed. There are specific disciplines that because they're sitting for a certification of some sort, they're not necessarily interested or paying attention to getting their welding certificate, for example. So at any rate, Trisha's team for a while has been manually looking at automated conferrals. So it looks up stackables, what that might look like. I may have gone to complete something regarding accounting, and I completed that, but I didn't realize in the meantime, I also completed a certificate in bookkeeping, for example. So Trisha's team is able to point this out. Really, the big focus for them pre-spring has been career and technical ed as well as nursing, and it's been kind of a manual process. With our adoption of colleague, it's become more streamlined. There's still some growing pains, but really, her team are able to move forward in looking at our entire population, not just those that have applied for graduation, to notify and identify students that maybe they didn't know that they had completed something, to go ahead and say that, you know, Anna Masterson has completed a certificate of something. Now, I may be continuing, right? It doesn't mean that I want to quit, but it's that little nudge, right? It's exciting to keep on going. So thankfully, they've been able to work more with the automated process. So those numbers don't represent that yet. So they're still doing that work. And then Tiffany's group in the high school works very hard to identify students that may be getting their AJAC or maybe earned a certificate along with that to add to it. The items down at the bottom are things that Trisha's team has found. And so they found additional completions and paramedic, firefighting, automotive, paralegal, so you're able to see the different items. And so that'll be part of the process more this year as well.
Great proactivity, huh? That's wonderful.
And I think that's it, unless there's any questions.
Any other questions?
No?
Yes,
I think
Ashley?
this might be appropriate to ask here. Thank you, Anna. Sure. So of the over 700 students, how many will we see at commencement?
I thought that's where you were headed. So that's a very popular discussion these days, as usual. So always those that apply for graduation and then those that RSVP later, sometimes their responses don't match. So right now, I believe the most current RSVP list, I'm looking at Trisha so she can correct me, is under 200. That's correct. Those that have said that they plan on being at graduation through an RSVP process. However, those that applied for graduation, there were over 400 students that said that they would be there. So although it's something that we continually work on, the student behavior of this is pretty normal. As it gets closer, we typically get more RSVPs, communication, email, staff are nudging, things of that nature. Last year, how many did we have attend commencement, Trisha? About
300.
About
300.
about 300. And so we always hope for more in that aspect. But yeah, as of right now, that's where we are.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to state, for the sake of stating it in a public meeting, you know, we do hold commencement in Bullhead. That can be quite a trek for all of our student population, or some of our student population, I'll just say so. And that participating in a ceremony like graduation is, has a lot of benefits for the future. And I just hope that if there is any support that someone needs in order to participate or in order to help a family member be there to celebrate with them, I just hope that we can help connect them with resources and things like that so that they can be there.
So we certainly do our best. Certainly transportation may be an issue. One of the things that we do are loaner gowns. And so if that is what is causing them to not be able to attend, we do something like that. We have seen students before carpool, different efforts to try to get them there as well. I know staff is then notified by students, maybe reasons why. They certainly try to help however they can. But yes, that's an important point.
Do we let students know that these options are available to them up front, or only when they express concerns?
So the loaner gown, I'm looking at Trisha, the loaner gown we do.
It's on the website, it is referenced.
Right.
And on the email as well.
Right.
But the student graduate discussion.
Yes, so we do allow, like, the loaner gown is on the application. So if they need it, they let us know right away that would be the reason. In addition to if people are having discussions with students, advisors, or anyone else, that's something that they make sure to inform the student of too. To be able to get that. They also have loaner gowns at the ceremony the day of.
So would the foundation be an appropriate place to look at perhaps providing a bus or a small van to bring students to graduation if we know transportation is an issue?
Yeah, that could be brought forward to the foundation board in a request and for them to decide.
Yeah, we certainly look at that. All right.
Yeah, and then another question, because it's along those same lines. Is the cost of the regalia, is they rented? I'm assuming they rented, or is it free? Is that, could that hold students back from participating?
So they buy them, and is it 50, Trisha?
25.
It's 25?
Yeah, depending on the company, 25 to 35.
Okay, 25 to 35 typically. We have been fortunate to have students donate their gowns as well in the past. They know they're not going to use them otherwise, so we also have a supply that we keep depending on if they're clean, if they can still be used, things of that nature. But yeah, thank you.
Because I think it'd be good for us to know if that's prohibitive for them, so let them know up front, that just so we have a sense for what that is. Because you never know who could find a way to subsidize that, people's donations of the foundation, however. I would just hate to have regalia, transportation, anything keep them from walking, because it's really important. It's cool. It's cool to walk, and I don't think students always realize the pride that they will feel from walking, and I think this is important for them to know that that's an important step in their life. We call it commencement for a reason, right?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. All righty, let's move on to the board report. Item number 9. So Susan, for AACCT report.
And I have some information that we received yesterday from Kristen Boilini, who is our legislative lobbyist for community colleges. But our executive director, David Borowski, is behind me. And I would like to turn the first portion of that over to him so he can explain what's happening at AACCT and ACCT and our all trustee event. So David, please go.
Thank you, Susan. Good morning, board. Good morning, Dr. Klippenstein, friends and colleagues. So we do have our AACCT board meeting next week. Actually, the all trustee meeting next week in Phoenix at the Doubletree Hilton on North 44th Street, not at South Priest Drive. Don't want anybody to go to South Priest Drive because that's where we've been before. We will have a couple of presentations on artificial intelligence and a conversation about that. We'll have a greeting from the governor on video. We'll also have Aaron Hart, who is the governor's higher education policy advisor, will be with us in person. This is all on Wednesday, April 24th. And in the afternoon, a presentation by the president of the Community College Baccalaureate Association, flying out to see us from Florida to talk about baccalaureates around the nation and also here in Arizona. We'll do a trustee sharing session. We'll have a little dinner. And then the next day, I'm assuming you've told them about this a little bit.
For the next day for breakfast?
For the Workforce Scholarship Program, or do you want me to go through that, or are you going to go through that?
I am going to go through that. Now I know what you're talking about. Yes, I am going to go through that.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you about that. He'll deal with it. But there is going to be a governor's press conference on Thursday at Gateway Community College, which is literally, and I measured it yesterday, a half a mile from the hotel. You are all welcome to be there. Dr. Klippenstein will explain why we're going to go there in a little while when he gets to his report, but it will be a major announcement by the governor, which is part of the reason she's not with us on Wednesday, because she's going to be with us on Thursday. That's the all trustee agenda. We did have an AACCT board meeting yesterday. Talked about a lot of things. Susan was quiet, not really. Susan had a few questions. I need to ask you, are you still on frontier.com or you?
No, I'm still Frontier.
Okay, I keep sending them.
I'll get rid of them. Yeah.
She's got to earn her salary. That's why we have her ask all those questions.
That's right. That's why I'm still stuck in Frontier. My salary hasn't been increased.
So we also do have the AACCT, the national organization, meeting coming up in Seattle in October. Registration is open. You are welcome to obviously work with Amy and go to the website, and hopefully a number of you will be there as well. We'll have a breakfast. We'll have a couple of get-togethers, I'm sure, while we're there in Seattle coming this October. And I stand for questions if you have any.
Questions, anyone? Thank you, David.
Thank you.
So was that your report?
No, my report, and Stacy may cover part of it too. And it ties in with everything that is causing really long-term questioning, concern about our college and where we're going and what's going to happen in the near future. Kristen is our legislative lobbyist, and Stacy has mentioned her several times. Apparently, and I think it's no surprise to anybody in this room, is a lot of issues going on down in Phoenix. And the legislature is now working 1 day per week. And there's competing ballot issues overtaking budget issues for next year. And that's creating some issues. And I already mentioned that Arizona is facing a, 1.8 to $2.2 billion deficit. And they're going to continue probably to 2028, 2029, which means that probably a lot of money isn't going to be coming our way, including the federal government with money. They're also talking about clawing back a lot of last year's 2.5, was it million or billion? I can't remember, David, in money that was sent out for special projects. They're talking about sweeping funds. She specifically mentioned highway funds, not that that directly involves us, but it means what else is coming to be swept to us and try to balance this budget. And the other part is yours, AC Warner.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say anything about that. And one thing that really concerned me and it really struck home is that the University of Arizona is in an uphill battle with regard to the state bailout. And when Kristen was asked what was part of the problem with University of Arizona, her very quick answer is it's a touchy issue and U of A had too many projects going at the same time, spending too much money overbuilding. So that kind of hit home for me, and I want to make sure that we are very careful about what we do in the next few years. That's about it that I have for notes, other than the marijuana tax, which every time I see that report, I am floored by the amount of money that comes in on that marijuana tax. And that 33% of it generally comes to community colleges. So in some ways, you hope there's more money coming in there. In other ways, it's frightening to think it's coming in. Anything else, David, that I missed?
No, I think that covers it. I'm glad you brought up the marijuana because I know that was something that you really cared about.
That's right. I have to make sure my tax stays low on that stuff. Just joking. Public consumption, just joking.
Any questions or anything about this item? Okay, great. Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is number B, letter B, and this is that request for information that the board member, it's a form that I thought would help us streamline and organize the requests that the board members have for staff to do research. And last time we presented it, there were some questions about the steps that we would take to process the form. And the form says that the request goes to the college president in keeping with the code of conduct. But I recall that we were talking about perhaps changing that we wanted to have it come to the chair rather than the president, which means we would have to change the code of conduct to make that, to realize that. So I'd like to have a conversation about that with the board, and let's see what your thoughts are about this, about keeping it as is or changing the code of conduct so that we can accommodate a form change. What do you think? Susan?
Oh, do you know, I was gonna say something. You know, that form just overwhelms me. I look at it and I think, oh dear God, how much time am I gonna have to spend on this for something that may be simple? So I'm gonna jump to the code of conduct. What I would like to propose is the code of conduct and information requests of the college from individual board members must be addressed through the chair to the president, so that we have one person who sees them and says, you know, Susan, you've been drinking too much Kool-Aid. And this really does not need to go to the president of the college. And then on the other hand, that Stacy's not overwhelmed by individual requests or staff. So I think that would be a simple change that we could make. And unless you object to it, because you would be the chair right now, it would come through. I think we can fight through this form at a later date. It's just overwhelming for some simple requests that we may have. And if we request something to you first without the form, and you think it's really important, then you can hand us a form. Otherwise, you can say, yeah, Susan, that's a good idea, or, oh, yeah, Susan, that sounds really complicated. Let me talk to Stacy, and you might have to fill out a form.
Okay, so your vision is that, to paraphrase, your vision is that the chair filters the requests before they get to the president.
Yes, ma'am.
And that the chair would determine, based on the conversation with the trustee, whether or not the form would be needed.
And it may just be something that we put on the agenda and talk about. That could be really quick and answered. It just is seeming to be way too complex with this form that keeps on coming on my desk. That gives me a headache when I look at it. I'd like to keep it simple. And so my suggestion is that we revise the code of conduct 1.010N to say, information requests of the college from individual board members must be addressed through the chair to the president.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion? Anyone want to, Ms. Julie?
Well, I'm hearing what you're saying and I certainly respect that and wouldn't have any trouble if you'd asked me something and I thought, oh, no, that's too much stuff. I think I would like to return to the form because I have never, there's a question on our evaluation about do we, as the trustees asking of too much time or something like that. And when we talked last year and there was a change in how we would put an item on the agenda and had to have X number of trustees, I pointed out then, well, how would you know that you both wanted that on the agenda unless you talk? And we can't do that, so that kind of got muddled. So I keep going back to the form. I'll do whatever code of conduct everybody feels appropriate. I'm having trouble behaving myself, but sometimes I have a question and obviously it does, like I'd asked about dual enrollment and things like that. Well, I don't think I want to fill out the form every time I have a question. So it will chill, which might be a good thing. It would chill my request for information. I feel like I shouldn't be asking this stuff. So that's my concern.
Right, well, let me address that because the form was my idea. Because what I was looking to do was not to keep us from asking the regular questions we ask, because it says in the form that we still get to ask Dr. Klippenstein our questions. We still, there's questions that we will still ask him. That's not gonna change. This is request for research where we're asking more in-depth of a kind of a question. We require staff to dig in and do some work. And the concern was that the questions that we're asking, we want to make sure that we understand what we're asking, and that the president has the information he needs to prioritize the work for staff to do so that we're not cutting into staff's already busy schedule with something. There might be, the research request might be heavier than we realize. And then, because staff is great, they move everything aside, let's do what the trustees need. And we want to make sure that we're not taking up too much of their time with doing that. And that's where that came from. It's not for the everyday questions, it's for things that require research.
With that said, that form is more appropriate for you and Stacy to work with, which is why if we channel it directly to you, you and Stacy can work through that form.
Or whoever the chair is at the time would fill out the form.
But I also want, and this bugs me. As you know, I am on a federal board. And the federal interpretation of open meeting law does not preclude any conversation between any one or two members of a board, as long as they are a minority.
Two of them, yep.
And do not make a decision versus the state, or at least what we've been informed, is that we're not supposed to be talking to each other unless we're sitting here.
Well, essentially, Susan, I want to correct you. Like I could talk with you, or I could talk with Diane. The problem comes when it becomes a serial communication. So if I talk with you, it's inevitable that I might want to bring it up to the chair. Oh, this came up and could we look at this or this? So that would be a serial communication. So I guess you just have to.
But even if I understand the serial, but if Diane and Ashley, I'll keep you out of it, Ashley and I were sitting out in the lunch area and we had a conversation about something. And we did not come, pertaining to the college, did not agree on a decision under federal interpretation. That is not a violation of open meeting law. And we as a board step really carefully all the time. And sometimes it gets frustrating, particularly when you look at that evaluation. Do you have communication? Well, we do when we sit here, kind of. But we don't really have one-on-one conversations. We may ask questions and we may make statements. But we do not have communication in the definition that we are talking about something and thinking through things either individually as a group without making a decision. So anyhow, I know that's long-winded, but that's part of my frustration on a local board and a federal board and their interpretation of what those board members can impact it. So back to your phone.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments, Ashley?
Happy to go along with whatever will help us have a good process. What, you know, I do come at things like, what's the underlying problem? Like, what's the purpose and what are we trying to solve here? And so I completely can understand that many times there's probably a request from the board as a whole or one of us for information that we think will help us with our responsibilities. And we don't realize the calculations that are going on in the team's minds about, okay, well, that's gonna take this, this, and this, and you know, that's gonna take out 40 hours of so-and-so's time this month. So it's important for us to hear that, not in and we shouldn't take that as a complaint or anything negative, but that is information we as a board should know when we make a request. This is what that request will entail. And then we can decide if we still think it's needed. And I worry that when and if the board's ever in a situation where maybe there's it's not as fine and dandy and copacetic, then we would, if we had a policy where every request like that had to go through the chair, it might set us up for it might just not have a great result.
No, chair's head could explode.
So, yeah, and then you get into this whole worry about, are we having conversations that aren't in public view? So I am, like I said, fine with whatever process we come up with. I think I understand the intent behind it. It's, let's be thoughtful about what we're asking for, what the purpose of it would be. Is it supporting us in our responsibilities? Let's hear what that would cost us and then determine if we still, is that basically like
Exactly
what this?
Exactly,
Okay.
thank you, Ashley, no, thank you, that's exactly what the intent was.
Okay.
That's the intent, absolutely. It's not to make it hard to ask questions, it's just to help us, the trustees, provide information to the president so that he can resource the inquiry with staff accordingly, and we were sensitive to, we were thoughtful about what we were asking, the scope of the work that we're asking, because we don't always know what that is.
Right.
We don't always know what the exact scope is.
I would like to also insert, in the many years that I've been a board member, ever since we've had internet access, I have not asked, and not that you're criticizing me, I'm not suggesting that, but to go along with this forum, perhaps we could have a note where we said, I have done X, Y, and Z so far to solve this, because I always try to find the answers to everything that I want to gather this stuff for by going through state records, Department of Ed, anything online from any other institution in the United States. I've spent hours and hours doing that. And so I don't feel any, and nor I've ever felt from Stacy that I've ever asked anything that he didn't want to answer. I've never felt that way. But that might be a way to make this form more user-friendly. Is, you know, did you spend any time at all on your own trying to answer your question, Julie? Or
I think, and I can add that, but I think I guess it's kind of implied that you're not gonna ask for information that you don't already have. You're gonna ask me for something above and beyond, and that's kind of what I was thinking.
Because that makes my head explode. Now I have to add more to what I've already looked up to tell you what I looked up when I asked a question that may just be simple, but I'm saying.
But
what
my
you're saying,
sister,
tell me.
so, okay, I got you.
No, whatever you ask for, I will assume that you already have the other half that you needed. This is addition, an
Okay.
addition. I don't need to know what that is, by the way.
Well, why don't we just go with it and see how it works? We don't like it, we change it.
Okay, so is there a motion? Do we want to use the form as is and leave the code of conduct as it is, or do we want to change the code of conduct and the protocol? What was?
Well, I made a motion.
Oh, you made, okay.
Oh, did you?
I didn't hear it.
Stacy has his hand up.
Yes, Stacy.
Yeah, Madam Chair, usually protocol would be that this can be considered a first read. We could put it on as an actionable item with the right terminology at the next board meeting.
Okay.
And so we can make sure we get the right terminology, bring it back for the second read, which would then be the motion and the second for that board code of conduct change, which would run then parallel with the change that you can make to the form. So that could be discussed next month. We can use this as a first read for a policy procedure change.
And you can use it as a draft to see what the strengths and weaknesses are, if anybody.
Yeah, because we can change it. We can change it up as we go.
Yeah.
Okay, are you good with that?
Yeah,
Good?
yeah.
Everyone okay? You're good?
You heard me make a
Candida?
motion, I withdraw it anyhow, so you don't need to know what it was.
Is Candida okay? If we move
I
forward?
didn't even know you made clues.
Okay, we'll do that then. All right.
And
Okay.
also, sorry,
Yes,
Madam
yes,
Chair, also
yes.
what we could do too for the next meeting is just bring some of the items related to open meeting laws with Arizona, just to double check and confirm and make sure we have that dialogue about that communication, just so that can be cleared up and.
Yeah,
we can-
because federally, I mean, we have a board of 9, and we can have 4 people having a discussion, and sometimes 9 people having a discussion, as long as a decision is not made. So they're a whole lot more relaxed about it.
No sunshine there, huh?
Okay, so yeah, we can do that,
Pretty-
that'd be fabulous.
Yeah,
Okay, all
absolutely.
right, great. Okay, are there any other trustee reports? Any reports from anyone else? Candida?
I don't have one, thank
Okay, go ahead, Candida.
She said I don't have one.
You don't, okay, go ahead.
Just quickly, I wanted to thank all of the employees of MC. I've seen a lot of involvement in community collaborations and community events and students, I should say, in place representing Mohave Community College, and I appreciate it. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, that's nice, thank you. And ditto, I think that's,
And ditto.
that's.
I'll treat them all.
That's good, thank you, Ashley. Okay, next up would be the president report. Can we take a quick health break? Does anybody mind?
Is that 10 minutes? We are taking.
We are taking, so it's 10:47, we'll get back to the 10:47.
I'm jumping in front of you.
Quite a nice fit. Thank you for coming. Yeah, today. I giggled at your response. I was like, yes, I did. I meant to. You know, there's this whole. I didn't mean to do that. I'll have my other hat on. I'll have my paid gig hat on. It's okay. Yeah, just. I'm telling you, my son.
So then, we will just go on with the next juice. But it's frustrating to hear these whole because it's, yeah, send me that too. Yeah.
David,
Yeah.
so now Luke.
You're confused? I didn't do that's not what I thought. Yes, God.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that what I had to know.
So.
I like shoes, yeah, we said it.
You can actually get. You guys. This one. Leave it on the desktop. I mean, we can go ahead and turn the cameras off in the other rooms.
Oh, I don't like that.
I think you right click on the actual.
Which building?
You know.
The one that took the place of the Kingman failure?
Yeah, we finally declared that
Yes.
lost cause. Not yet.
No, I was just saying.
I have,
What's it video?
we had a meeting the other day. That's good video. Yeah, they're all excited about this planet. In your agreement. Not moving forward.
My don't seem to fly in the snow.
Nope.
Oh, you need it? All right. Let's go back.
Yeah, we can't just be flailing about. Well,
Always.
I'm telling you right now, I'm not interested. So he goes and you gotta see how
Take it on, but my question.
Is that the one?
I do.
Mostly.
Don't go to a lot of cats. Yeah, and each town is basically
Side by side.
I love it out there.
I'm not saying, again, I think you said that.
People are gonna cross the hall so that you can see and then see the presentation. There's concern. You got it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if you don't open, just not.
Nice job, Sharon. I like that.
Just the back. Yeah, that would be.
That's all.
Makes more sense.
Oh, what's next?
Yeah, so they-
I always say, Sugar, you're the one that's.
Seven of her cheesecake traditions. Secret. She wonders, I have to hide them because they're small and you pop one in your mouth.
But I do like the idea of it being a cream and dry, as opposed to just throwing everybody in the dog. You
That's why I have to be on your. Oh, yeah. And I always put it in. Well, yeah. So then you can get it arranged.
Thanks, sir.
It's like,
Right now, it's only like.
I looked at it and said, I wonder how much of this and then maybe it's a line that eyes what we're.
Did you just copy me on that email? You don't have to go, right?
I don't know how much time. It also came out, tax season.
The other cards.
I think with that. Rotary hadn't been here this morning.
Yeah. Are you the bad child today?
Far away into my own thing.
I like when she sets out all like gender and all those stuff. I like this.
Probably is in
Half the time it's
it's something, but I can't. The name is behind me.
I get half a screen of.
No map with the.
And then the agenda is that big. So then I have to download. And then it's not our.
It's time. All right, item number 10, the president. Oh, yes, yes, we have one more trustee item on the report to go back up a minute. It's gonna reverse for a second. Item C, other trustee reports. Susan?
Okay, C, since this is a public meeting and we have identified a conflict, I just want to make sure that the public understands that this board will in fact comply with the interpretation of Massachusetts open meeting law.
Why not?
It's not Massachusetts? What is it? Give me the right title, so you'll see it from again. Arizona? Yeah, oh, geez. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry. We will comply. We will not comply with Massachusetts, we will comply with Arizona. And then Stacy will take care of the other one. So, mea culpa, I made a mistake.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Susan, thank you, Susan, I appreciate
It's
that.
April, you're allowed to make a mistake. It's been 4 months since you.
Tax season.
Any questions for Susan about what state we're in? Okay.
We haven't Keenan, right?
Okay, Clippenstein, President's report.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, as always, we're going to start off with the Bighorn Blast, and then we'll move into the compensation package. And but first, we'll start with Bighorn Blast.
Dr. Holland.
We did test it, just rewind it.
James, another great report.
You could just narrate it.
He must have been in Massachusetts.
First up. First up, Governor Hobbs.
I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, technical difficulties. We apologize.
Proclaimed April as
May have gotten changed, so I apologize. Sounds good.
Yeah. Have you?
First up, Governor Hobbs.
Sometimes it's a piece of cake. I can't figure out. Some and some do. That's why. I'll use Outlook. Find me on. I think it's Outlook.
Where is
I
the?
say something before. No, nobody else is having any problem.
It's quirky.
It's very strange.
But it's not.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if we may, we can go ahead and send this out at a later point.
Okay,
In order
sure.
for people to hear it.
Okay.
That would be
We
great.
can continue with item B.
Yeah, and then we can continue with item B.
Okay.
We got it.
What?
Got it.
Maybe the boss is gonna-
Yeah, that's the one I was looking for. Find it.
Thank you.
I apologize for that.
It's not shared, so.
Yeah, do.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
First up, Governor Hobbs proclaimed April as Arizona Community College Month, acknowledging the critical role community colleges play in shaping the state's future. Arizona's 10 community college districts serve more than 250,000 students statewide and are key players in driving economic growth and meeting the state's educational goals. In Mohave County alone, MCC, its students and alumni, boost the regional economy by $155 million each year. Visit mohave.edu/improving lives for more information about how the college is helping students and communities. And the governor also recently visited with students at the Havasu campus to gather input on critical issues such as affordable housing and food insecurity, which often hinder academic success. Dr. Klippenstein expressed gratitude to the governor for her support of community colleges. The Bighorn Trek events were a great time as the college's Bullhead City and Lake Havasu City campuses bridged the gap between higher education and the community. The events are a great way for MCC to showcase its wide array of programs, and college partner Arizona at Work hosted hiring events that brought in regional businesses looking for employees. The event's also an opportunity for college faculty to show how their programs are tailored for career opportunities and how they help prepare students for further higher education success. Adding to the excitement, both campuses featured the Show and Shine Car Show organized by MCC's auto programs, captivating car enthusiasts and students alike. Creativity and talent were on display at the 4th annual Flash Film Festival. Congratulations to Audrey Gee, whose video Dear Starlings took home the grand prize of $500. The Flash Film Festival, created by the Arts Club, serves as a fun platform to ignite passion for the arts. And with each passing year, the festival gains momentum, drawing in a growing number of submissions from MCC students, staff, and community members. You can find links to all the Film Fest winners at mohave.edu. Just click the About tab, then click Newsroom, and you can scroll down and click the Film Fest headline. The college has a new honor society geared toward biology students. Beta 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 Epsilon, known as Tri Beta, celebrated 14 inaugural students in the Honor Society. The induction ceremony included family, friends, and MCC employees. The Honor Society is for undergraduate students dedicated to improving the understanding and appreciation of biological study and extending boundaries of human knowledge through scientific research. And congratulations to the newest members of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, known as PTK. 38 new students were recently inducted into the society. If you'd like more information on joining PTK or any of the student clubs, please contact the office of your campus dean of student and community engagement. Another shout out to the Bursar's office, which just clinched another prestigious Bank Mobile ACE Award. It's the 6th Achieving Campus Efficiency Award the College Bursar's office has won. They were recognized for outstanding efficiency and security in processing student refunds. In honor of Women's History Month, Mohave Community College's Havasu campus recently hosted a remarkable panel of leaders from throughout the city. The panelists, representing diverse fields, shared their inspiring professional journeys, reflecting on their mentors and offering invaluable advice to future generations. To see pictures of the event, head to the college newsroom at mohave.edu/newsroom. The MCC Thrive Wallapai Business Center continued its seminar series with guest speaker Jeanette Pigeon, the college Small Business Development Center Director. Pigeon shared invaluable insights on starting a business. From self-assessment to building support networks, attendees learned how to kickstart their entrepreneurial journey. The Thrive Wallapai Business Center in Peach Springs is a partnership between MCC and the Wallapai Tribe, empowering people to turn passion into profit. Head to mohave.edu/Thrive Wallapai for more information on how they can help you. The college partnered again with the Mohave Health Coalition to host the 3rd annual Health Fair at the Bullhead City campus. The free community event offered everyone an opportunity to learn about the great resources available throughout the area that benefit a healthy lifestyle. The Student Veterans Club held its 2nd annual Salute Our Troops Car Show at the Kingman campus, and it was packed with cars and fun. Proceeds help the Student Veterans Club host community service events and help pay for caps, gowns, and stoles for graduating veterans. The MCC volunteer golf teams helped with and had fun at the Bighorn Boosters' 1st annual golf tournament fundraiser in Havasu. The boosters host scramble tournaments like this one at the Iron Wolf Golf Club to raise money for the men's and women's soccer programs. And we'd like to thank all the sponsors, especially those Bighorn T-Box sponsors near and dear to our hearts. There are 2 more upcoming fundraiser tournaments, and everyone's invited to play. Just head to bighornscramble.com for more information and to sign up. Congratulations to Trevor Beck, Bullhead City Campus Facilities Manager. He was recognized at a recent President's Cabinet meeting for all of his and his team's great work on the campus Bighorn Trek event. Be sure to head to mohave.edu/newsroom to access all the Bighorn Blast newscasts, as well as the Bighorn Blast podcasts. The college website and social media channels are the best way to stay up to date with the college news and events. And of course, if you have a story idea, send it to mcc@mohave.edu.
Thanks again, Jamie. A lot of additional good information and highlights of many of our activities and events. And thank you, Ashley, for recognizing the amount of work that goes into many of those by our faculty, staff, and our students. We have a lot of students really participating in it. So a lot of great activities going on, and obviously more coming up this month and going into next month with commencement and pinnings and student recognition ceremonies. So a lot of activity going on. Madam Chair, I'll move forward to the next item, which is the compensation plan for 24-25, and I'll pass it off to Jenny and to Jennifer.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein, April is traditionally the month that we bring forward our compensation plan for the following fiscal year. And Jennifer McCart is here as the Executive Director of Employee Services to present that package.
One sec, sorry.
New room. Just stop share and then pull it on.
Right there.
You could put in presentation view.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein, I am pleased to be here to present for you the compensation proposal for 24-25. When we're talking compensation, we are talking primarily 2 focus, salaries and benefits. So this is just a history of our health insurance premiums over the last several years. I have for the 24-25 year, the upcoming year, we did receive the renewal rate from our current health insurance model through ASBA, the Arizona School Board Association Insurance Trust. And they did provide us with an 11% wage increase. So in our current year, we are extending approximately $965 a month per employee for individual level coverage. With that 11% increase, we would see that monthly amount increase to $1,068. Over an annual period, it's about a $360,000 increase in benefits costs alone. The Arizona State Retirement System sets their own contribution rate by state statute every year. So this is just an overview of the last several years. This year upcoming, there is just a slight decrease in that contribution rate, which we're happy to see. We'll take any decrease. We also have received information from ASRS recently that they are hoping to be able to continue to decrease that rate over the next several years. It's something they are working very hard on, and we appreciate that, and I know our employees do as well. So looking forward to seeing future improvements in that rate. An overview of our salary and benefit package histories for the last several years. Highlighted in red is the increases that we have seen in health insurance every year. Many of those years have been fairly high increased rates. Our strategic focus and budgeting philosophy supports attracting, developing, and retaining an exemplary workforce. We've talked before about our efforts in attraction and development. We have created the employee learning and development role. We created the Center for Teaching and Learning, And then this year, we implemented new hiring manager and hiring committee member participation training. So I'd like to take a moment and just talk about the third component, then retention. So the College and University Professional Association for Human Resources, Coupa HR, affectionately known by those of us who regularly avail ourselves of their resources, conducted an employee retention survey in 2022 and again in 23, because they identified there seemed to be a trend in retention changes. The retention rates were lowering, and they were trying to gather some more information to help understand what is actually going on in the higher ed world. And so they had over 4,700 respondents representing over 500 institutions who participated in this survey. The really key pieces that we take away from this survey is that 33% of the respondents to the survey indicated they were either likely or very likely to look for other employment within the next 12 months. And that was shocking to me. And Coupa HR has been tracking this retention rate since 2017-18, and this past year was the highest that rate has ever been. The reasons why employees say they're looking for new opportunities primarily revolve around pay or salary increases, the opportunity to work remotely, promotion or more responsibility, more flexible work schedule, and then better benefits. So remote work and flexible scheduling options are things we've implemented at MCC in the last couple of years. I feel very successfully. Employees have reported satisfaction with the opportunities that have been provided. Managers appreciate the flexibility that it provides within their teams. And so better benefits gained traction in a reason why employees are leaving, according to Coupa HR. But we know from our own MCC data just how important those benefits are to our employees in the situations that we face here at MCC. So employees have been asking for more affordable benefits for several years in a variety of ways. Through the data we collect from the employee engagement survey, the reports put forth by the employee compensation team, as well as information we've received from staff council. This is just an overview of our own personal data then that we've collected about pay and benefits and the employees' feelings towards those. You can see the numbers are not moving in the right direction on those surveys. We did not do a survey as a reminder for the 23-24 year. We are moving to an every other year model. So we will do an employee engagement survey again this fall. I'd like to give you a little overview of our current benefit situation, where we've been and what we're talking about moving forward into the future. So prior to 1987, MCC operated as a self-funded, self-insured model. In 1987, we joined the Mohave Insurance Schools Consortium. And then in 2010, that changed to the ASBATE Trust. ASBATE is a membership of over 100 schools. MCC is the last Arizona community college that is still participating in that ASBATE Trust. Most of their members are K-12 institutions throughout the state. As a member of this large pool, we have limited decision-making ability when it comes to the benefits that are offered to our employees. And then again, this year, we've been provided with an 11% or $360,000 benefit increase. So we at MCC cover 97% of the cost of the base plan for an employee-only level. We don't offset any of the coverage for the dependents. In comparison to our peers, and when I say peers, I'm talking Arizona community colleges, as well as public employers in Mohave County, the school districts, the cities, and then the county as well. Our employee-only coverage may be less expensive in many cases. However, the dependent coverage is significantly more than employees at other institutions will pay. So we want to get to a place where we have maximum plan management and strategy. We're offering optimal care to our employees, and then we can get to that affordable dependent coverage. That's really the driving force behind this. We want to be able to offer that coverage to our employees that is affordable and that they've been asking so desperately for us to find a way to do. How can we get there? We need to take control of our benefit costs and opportunities. We need to retain plan rebates and savings, and that way we can develop more cost-effective coverage. So how can we do this? So we have been working with the Mahoney Group, who's our current insurance broker, and they will help guide a transition into a new way of operating our benefit funding. So they have been successfully brokering our benefits, our other fringe benefits, dental, vision, short-term disability, life insurance for many years. And the Mahoney Group's passion is helping employers provide excellent benefits to their employees. Over the last couple of years, they've been reaching out and asking, have you thought about approaching your benefits in a different way? When you're ready, let us know. And we think now is the right time to make this move. So by making this move, we will maintain our relationship with Meritain Health and Aetna Network. So Meritain Health is our third-party administrator, and they will, by continuing this relationship with Meritain and Aetna, that means we'll have no disruption to our employees as we make this shift. Employee plans stay the same. Your insurance operates exactly the same way you're used to using it. We can keep the same providers, and the monthly premium is going to stay the same. This model will include alternative risk transfer strategies, such as stop-loss insurance, protecting the college from catastrophic losses, and putting a cap on how much we pay for employees' healthcare in any given year. Additionally, making the move this year means that we are essentially seeing a savings of $360,000 by not taking that increase under the ASBATE model. And ASBATE actually operates as a modified self-funded plan. So we've been operating in a similar fashion, but there's been an extra layer involved in this, which limits our decision-making and doesn't give us an ability to be involved in how the costs are managed. And the ASBATE model has worked for several years. However, it is their responsibility to provide plan options that work for the majority of their members. The majority of their members are not us in the Northwestern rural areas. So by moving into this new model, we can ensure that the benefits elected most adequately meet the unique needs of our employees. And then gives us the ability to see cost savings. And those directly would impact our employees and our employer costs for those benefits. Our inability to offer affordable coverage for dependents is seen as a limitation by our employees. It's also a limitation we've experienced in attracting new talent. Unfortunately, we have had some folks who have declined an offer of employment based on the cost of having to put dependents on the coverage. Now, it will take some time before we are able to sustainably offer more affordable coverage, but we do expect within the next 2 years to be able to be in that place, and that's really exciting. So, quick overview of how insurance currently operates when we are part of ASBATE. So each year, ASBATE designs the plans and sets the premiums. And then we collect the premiums through employee contributions in their paychecks, as well as the money we set aside in our budget. Meritain, the third-party administrator, invoices all of the employers in the pool based on the enrollments, and then Meritain pools those premiums together. The employees use their benefits, the providers submit claims to Meritain, and Meritain administers the claims paying from that pool of funds. And then as there are plan savings or rebates realized through this model, ASBATE maintains all of them. Even if they are savings that are attributed to our employees' usage of the plan, those savings go back into the pool. So what we're proposing is making a change where we would have the ability as an employer to design our plans and set the premiums. Again, we're not proposing making any changes right now, but in the future, we would have the ability to make changes if it made sense. We would budget for the premiums, still collecting from employee paychecks the way we have been and setting aside the money in our budget. However, we would put that then into a holding account specifically for employee benefits. And this is a key piece as part of this design. The money that is set aside and put into that account can only then be used for benefits purposes. So we are preserving and protecting the money that we would be using to pay for benefits. The employees will still use their benefits like usual. The providers will submit those claims to Meritain, and Meritain will administer the claims. Meritain will then invoice us based on those claims received. And then we have that stop loss coverage again that would mitigate large claims. And then as we see plan savings and rebates throughout this model, we are able to keep them, again, in that benefits holding account, but to be able to build that reserve and use them for offering more affordable coverage in the future. Pause here or continue?
Sure, you could pause there for any questions since the next is on compensation or the pay, yeah.
You said something this time that I didn't hear, blaming me, I didn't hear the other time. You said that we could provide coverage, or limit how much per individual insurance in any given year, something to that effect. Could you explain that a little bit better?
So I think you're asking about the stop loss coverage.
Yes.
Okay, so the stop loss coverage, the way this works is we have an individual threshold as well as an aggregate threshold. So on an individual employee who uses the benefits basis and also the college costs as a whole for claims that are incurred. And so that stop loss coverage then provides a strategy to transition those claims to another method of insurance, reinsurance, that then they are not affecting our claims ratio going forward. And so I feel like I'm not explaining it well based on the look on your face, so please help me.
No, I get that.
Okay,
So
great.
I'm gonna go take a flight with Julie. And Julie stays in the plane, and Susan makes the decision to jump out of the plane and now require catastrophic health care costs.
I'm so sorry.
Another dumb decision from these Massachusetts people. So that's kind of, without getting into cancer and all kinds of really terrible things. And I'm not joking about it to joke about those kinds of catastrophic things. So if we have, what I guess I'm looking for is the amount of insurance coverage limit for normal routine care, and then those catastrophic.
Where is the stop loss?
What's that threshold?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, much better.
I've experienced it, so I know.
So,
And in conjunction with that, if you could address, is there a lifetime cap on?
Good question.
Catastrophic anything, the whole thing, is there a cap on that? Okay, thank you.
very good questions. So I have answers. However, I also want to address that Jason Andrade from the Mahoney Group has offered to be available for questions as well. So he is available.
So if we miss the answers, he will fix them for us right now because he's here.
Good, thank you.
Jason.
Jason, are you there? Would you like to field this question?
Like to?
Did everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I think if I'm hearing this correctly, you wanted to know what the limit is on the stop loss for the individual stop loss as it relates to what we consider a catastrophic claim. Is that the first question?
Yes.
Would be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that-
What's
hearing what
the
you said,
norm,
that
what's
was
the
what
normal,
you're
what's the, yes. the
Where does it
catastrophic.
end?
So the individual stop loss limit is set for $125,000. And again, that's for any catastrophic claimant on the plan. And that's consistent with where you're at currently. And given the size of MCC, that is the appropriate level of stop loss amount, given the size or the population of the membership of college.
So at 125K, that's the ceiling, then what do you do for Susan, who has exceeded
Jumped out of my
that?
plane. Yep.
So once someone exceeds the $125,000 limit, that risk is then transferred from MCC to the reinsurance carrier, in this case, Sun Life. So then they pay all those claims above that. So for instance, God forbid somebody had a catastrophic incident or a condition and it was $1 million. MCC would first 125,000 and the reinsurance company would pay the balance.
Did I hear him say up to $1 million? Did I hear you say that?
The second carrier, I think is what
Yeah.
he's saying is 1 million is the
Is it 1
ceiling.
million?
So there is no lifetime, there's no maximum amount, so it could be $10 million. There's no maximum amount for that particular claimant. I just chose an example. So let's say it's a claim. A claimant reaches $1 million in claims. MCC would pay the first $125,000 and the reinsurance carrier would pay the $875,000 balance.
And how is that premium managed? I mean, who pays this reinsurance carrier?
So as a part of the total premium that's identified in the employee tiers, those costs are built into that premium.
And then what about the lifetime cap?
So there is not a lifetime maximum. That's a function of the Affordable Care Act. So there's no longer, it is no longer allowed in the insurance business.
If I could just explain a little bit in a more reason, because we're talking about these big numbers, I want to make sure that we say out loud that the employee is responsible only for the out-of-pocket max, which depending on the plan they choose is at different levels, but I'm gonna say 6,000 is the number that I have. So the first six, that they pay the deductible and then they're responsible for up to $6,000 on the EEO plan. And then the insurance package picks up beyond that as well. So because I heard we're responsible for the first 125, and I want to make sure that we say that the employee is not responsible for the first 125,000. They're responsible for the first 6,000.
And there's no cap. And the reason that's important is because catastrophic illnesses, you get to $1 million pretty fast.
Yes. Yes. There is.
Yeah, and so, and that's what I heard, up to 1 million. So if it is catastrophic, the employee is only responsible for the 6,000.
6,000 out of pocket per year.
Per year. Okay.
And the self-funded.
MCC, or however we fund it, is 125,000. The second carrier
Is the
picks up remaining, but
indefinitely,
but up to $1 million.
No, that was his example only.
Okay.
So it could be 10 million, it could be 10,400,000.
Okay, so no max.
There's no max, no cap.
Okay, good. That's what I needed to understand. $1 million per week. Thank you. Thank you,
Jason.
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Before we move on to the next section here, I think I know the answer, but I feel like I should ask it anyway. Moving to this proposed process, that additional the premiums being paid and held by the college, would that have any impact or other effects on how we have to report revenue or anything like that we should be concerned about? Wonderful question, actually.
Linda's shaking her head.
No. Yes or no?
No. Turn around, eyes in the back of your head.
It'd still be an isolated, like we are now.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Can you just explain the question? I want to, what do you mean, report revenue?
Well, just, or would that have any effect on, what's it?
Tax implications, you mean?
What's it called?
Expenditure
Expenditure limitation, thank you.
Yeah, it does not.
Yes, okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, so does it put us off balance is what I was wondering by holding that money?
Okay, thank you.
And the employees like this idea? Was there a survey or head count or what have you
We
done?
had an opportunity to visit with the employee compensation team.
Okay.
Do you mind if I?
Oh, yeah, go right ahead, yeah.
So the employee compensation team put forth their proposal this year, and there were several components that they felt were important recommendations that they would like to propose. One of them was around the pay increase, which we're going to get to in just a moment. But they also advocated very strongly for more affordable coverage, more affordable benefits. And so after they submitted the proposal, Dr. Cook and meeting, and Jenny and I had the ability to meet them. And he shared with them this idea that we had of moving in this direction, and they were very excited about the idea of moving ourselves into a place where we can offer those affordable benefits, and they appreciated that we are looking at things in a new and innovative way to help achieve the things they're asking for. So the response was very positive.
And maybe this is a question for Jason, or certainly for you, if you can answer. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. So we go into this, we're excited and enthusiastic, and everything is going along fine for a few years, but then just isn't quite what we thought it was going to be. Can we ever get back into the current plan? The trust, can we ever get back in with the ASBE group?
So there's limitations there. However, ASBE is not the only trust that's out there. So we do have this, moving in this direction does not commit us to always staying in this model as well. So we have the flexibility over time to continue to evaluate how well this model is working, and also to continue to evaluate other options that are out there for us and make a decision. We want to make sure whatever decisions we are making are providing the best benefits for the employee, and we will continue to monitor throughout this process and going forward.
When you say we, you mean you with the Mahoney group, because
Absolutely.
they are the umbrella, is that
They are
correct?
the experts, yes.
Yeah, that's, I'm not saying you aren't, but I just want to make sure I understood that. Thank you, Jennifer.
I have a question. Anybody have any questions? Does Candida have a question by any chance? I can't see her hand. No? Okay, then let me ask mine. So, I understand that we're gonna retain the plan savings in a holding account, and that's our money. And no one can borrow it, it's in the trust. What would those monies, could those monies be used for? Well, we're holding it in this trust, but for what purpose?
So the intention is to build up that reserve so that then in future years, we would be able to essentially buy down the cost of that benefit to the employee. For right now, we cover 97% of the cost of the employee, but we don't cover any of the cost for a dependent. So building up those reserves would give us that funding to be able to then lower the cost that an employee would pay for the dependent coverage.
So to follow on that question, who would be investing those funds and how would they be invested?
And yeah, that's what I was going to defer to Jason, but
Yeah, you certainly can at some point, once you build up a material reserve. You can certainly determine what those thresholds are. That would not be as part of our core skill set. But at some point in time, if the reserve build gets high enough, you would definitely not want to have a lazy account on that, and we'd look to have those funds directed into liquid, low risk, high liquid assets.
So
Not the stock market.
to explain that, we are not planning on investing those funds, we are planning on saving those funds for right now until we build up to a certain level.
Then reinvest it back into the plan later to lower the cost to.
And we would invest them in the same way that Linda has a lot of the college's funds invested as well. So the same kind of
money market accounts.
same kind of low risk kind of ways that we can build some.
That's the operating.
We are not looking at being risky with this nest egg that we're saving up. For the first several years, we will just be saving that and building that up.
We save it in our accounts,
It's
not
ours,
in
yes.
their accounts, in our accounts.
Correct.
And any savings that comes in with the plan, similar to what Jennifer mentioned to you all this week. If right now ASBE is keeping 220,000 of prescription type of
Pharmacy
rebates,
rebates.
and we would get that rebate now. So that would come in and build up that reserve for us then to use to lower down.
Yeah,
So
but
that's
you're
why
talking $220,000, even sticking it in a 60 or 90-day term certificate makes a huge difference.
Yes, for sure. We want to make sure that we build up that pool of money to the level that we need it to be at first and foremost. That would be our number one objectives, that we build as quickly as possible to where we need to be to feel comfortable. And then we can start looking at investing at that point.
Yeah.
And Linda's been a super guide in investing the college's funds, and we would use her to also help us invest that pool.
Yeah, because it would seem to be a sin to keep it in a checking account, saving
Yeah, right.
account that's, 0.1 or 2
Yeah,
or 8%.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Before we conclude this, I do have one more question.
Sure.
Mr. Andrade works with the Mahoney Group, is that correct? And Mahoney Group works with ASBE, is that correct?
No.
No, okay, how did we come across Mr.?
Miss Mahoney Group is our authorized insurance, AIR representative. First and foremost through the trust, which is our liability, property, and auto insurance. And so we've had a long-term relationship with the Mahoney Group through that. And then when Mohave Schools Insurance Consortium disintegrated a little bit, they stepped in and helped us pick up the brokerage for the additional insurance products, so the short-term disability.
Gotcha.
And so they picked up that as our authorized insurance rep through the trust. They picked up these other things. And so this is a long time, as long as I've been here, we've had a relationship with Mahoney Group under the same circumstances.
I'd just like to make sure that's all.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, switching gears to the other component of our compensation plan and talking about the salary increases that we would propose for the next year. A reminder that we have moved to an alternating strategy when it comes to percentage versus flat rate increases for employees. And so last year, the current year we're in, was a flat rate. And so this coming year, we would be proposing a percentage rate increase. And then we also address on here, in order to remain competitive, we do need to make sure that we're regularly evaluating our salary schedules and making adjustments as needed. But this year, moving forward, we're not proposing making any changes to the salary schedules. So we are proposing a 4.5% annual increase for faculty and 3.75% increase for staff. Additionally, we are proposing to add holiday to our schedule, which would essentially create winter break for staff. And so right now, the college is closed for 2 days to observe Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, depending on how we observe those during a work week. And then we are also closed for 2 days to observe the New Year's holiday. Essentially, we would take the 3 business days that exist between those two and convert them to holiday, which creates one cohesive holiday break for the staff. And so the employee compensation team brought this forward as something that was very important to the employees as well. They did their research, they collected data, they looked at our comparator schools throughout the state and identified that our other schools do offer a winter break for staff during this period of time. And something comparable to what we're proposing, all the way up to a full 2-week closure. And so what we're proposing is just that one cohesive winter break. And then the difference, to address the difference between the faculty and staff amount of the increase, we are taking into account by creating these work days being converted to holiday during the winter break. The faculty are already on holiday during that period of time. So adding this to our benefits package does not create any benefit for the faculty. They're already on holiday. And so if you look at 3 work days is 24 hours of work. Over a full-time employee's full year of work, it's approximately 1.24% of their annual work period. So we've essentially split the difference of that and applied a reduced rate in the staff compensation this year to offset for that. And then we would address any other individual pay adjustments as necessitated by benchmark data and implement this new health insurance model. So by moving to this model, we would have a 0% health increase, so no costs associated with the benefits component of this package, and the salary increases would account to a total of $871,125. We'll stand for any additional questions.
Can you go back to the history page for salaries and compensation?
Yes, oops, too quick.
The last one says 24, 25. I get 22, 23, this is 23, 24.
That's our current year package that we're in right now.
If you don't have a question, I'd like to entertain a motion. I'm ready.
Any questions? Susan, did you get your question answered? I know you wanted to look at the screen, but did you have a question?
Candida has her hand up.
Oh, Candida, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Did you have a question? No, okay.
I'm sorry. I need to look at
Candida
it.
has a
Okay,
question.
Candida?
Well, why don't I make a motion, and if she has a question, we can bring it in, because questions are after.
Does she have
motion, but-
does Candida have a question now, though? No?
I think she's just struggling with the connection.
Okay, Julie, go ahead and.
All right, I would like to recommend the administration approve the board approve the fiscal year 25 salary schedules as presented. The fiscal year 25 compensation increases and holiday adjustments as presented. And the implementation of employee health benefit model as presented.
Candida wanted this second.
Excellent. Okay, so Candida second.
Does the chair accept the second?
All those in favor?
Oh, I think there's.
Oh, questions.
Oh, questions? Discussion?
No, I would like to see this separated a little bit. I really do like and support the changes in the employee health benefit model. I'm a little concerned about the amount of increases in non-exempt, exempt, and exempt salaries. So I'd just like to see the three separated in a motion.
What's the protocol since we have a motion? And we
Well,
have a
we also
second?
follow Roberts, you can go ahead and vote against my motion. I can withdraw my motion. We can amend my motion if I accept an amendment. I am willing to withdraw my motion if someone would like to make a separate motion. I'm not going to make a separate motion. So,
Okay, anybody like to make a separate motion? So we have a motion.
Yeah, so you withdrew
I
it.
will withdraw my motion.
You withdrew your motion.
Candida has to withdraw her second.
Candida, do you withdraw your second? Sorry, I'm waiting for Candida to answer.
Well, we can act on behalf of Candida and the
No,
motion.
she is saying she will not withdraw. She would rather vote on the motion she seconded.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion?
We do a roll call vote, so there's no.
We do a roll call vote, okay? All those in favor?
Okay,
I'm sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Dr. Bear?
Yes.
Candida Hunter? She's voting yes. Susan McAlpine?
No.
Ashley Pascal?
Just want to ask for maybe a point of order because I'm a bit confused and this is a very big decision. About if Dr. Bear has withdrawn her motion, but we still maintained the second, I'm not sure for
Then
record
my motion
purpose.
is not withdrawn.
Okay, so the motion is, okay,
It's
so
still,
that's,
still active.
okay,
Good
thank you.
question.
I do think these are quite large increases and but I know that there's been due diligence and beyond to ensure that our budget can support it, and so I vote favor.
Singer?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Madam Chair, members of the, if I may,
Yes.
members of the board, thank you very much, Jennifer, and to Jason as well behind the scenes. They have diligently, if you might remember, I think it was over a month ago when I first shared that we received the news of the 11% and that we were looking at alternatives. Just the amount of work that was done in a very short period of time was pretty incredible. And to Ashley's point, yes, absolutely, that helped us then plan based on the recommendations of the employee comp team, as well as taking a look at our budget preparation for next year, the really perfectly within that plan, which you'll hear more about next month when we look at the first, I guess, first read, so to speak, of our CCD. Everything aligned great, but it took a lot of heavy lift at the beginning. I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you all, we're very
Good job. Okay, next item, C, Arizona Community College State Level Report.
Yeah.
Dr. Klippenstein.
Madam Chair, members of the board, just a nice quick update here, as much quick as I can. David mentioned earlier, and I know Susan might have mentioned this as well, but on next Thursday at 10 o'clock, we will be, when I say we, so presidents and chancellors will join the governor at a press conference to celebrate and acknowledge the 4.5 million she is giving to the community colleges as part of our workforce scholarship fund. I know I mentioned this earlier, our portion will be 300,000 of that 4.5 million. All the rurals get the 300,000. David and Aaron Hart from the governor's office did a lot of work behind the scenes to get this solved. We will be receiving a separate IGA, each college will. We hope to have that after the press release. So by May, we would be able to bring it to you for approval as a board, because it's between the governor, obviously, governor's office and you. But the press release will be about the 300 or the 4.5 million. We have already behind the scenes started talking about how to utilize those funds to go towards certain students within certain workforce high demand programs, which is what it's designed for. And her funds that she's using are basically leftover ARPA funds or American. So it has specific regulations that we have to spend by the end of September. So that means we have summer and fall over to be able to spend it. And so we will work diligently behind the scenes. And once we have a little bit better plan, maybe in May, we can bring back what we're looking at using it for. But it will probably be very similar to previous years when we were working on ARPA and CARES Act funds and how we distributed those to students. So we are excited about that opportunity that the governor is proposing. We just know it's a quick turnaround to spend by the end of September. And also just legislative issues. According to Kristen Boiolini in our last talk with legislative updates with her, there has been some recent reviews of the budget by the Joint Budget Committee. I can't remember the acronym right now, but they have come back and proposed that it looks like over the next 2 years, so the remainder of this year, next fiscal year, the state will be at about a $1.3 billion shortfall projected deficit. That's leading into now them to have the negotiations. When I say them, the legislators and the governor. So we will keep tabs on that. One of the ideas is to make sure, and the governor knows, and we do have some great support from across both aisles on maintaining the 15 million that goes to the healthcare kind of scholarship healthcare grant. So we are seeing some good headway in maintaining that and also maintaining all of the funding for the community colleges. So we'll continue to pay attention to that. Senate Bill 1190, just to let you know, was passed and signed by the governor, which allows us to have license plates, our own specialized Mohave Community College Bighorn license plate. And of course, it comes with a $32,000 price tag if we wanted to set up the plate, but then over the years, it can, gain benefit back. So we're not yet, haven't talked about entertaining that since it was just signed, but one option I have seen is where a foundation would come in and pay it, and all the money would actually come back to the foundation for scholarships, any revenue that would come from it.
So when someone wants one of our special license plates, we get the revenue from that.
We get a portion of that revenue, right?
Portion.
The state keeps a small percentage, but yep. House Bill 2373, which is the cleanup language from the previous year regarding the 6 million that came to us with the adult ed and the GED programs. That's a cleanup bill for language and how we can use it to make sure we can use it. And so again, David has done a lot of work on that, and so has Kristen Boiolini. House Bill 2639, which is the dental assistant bill. Right now, it's in kind of a holding pattern. Sponsor Hendricks, Representative Hendricks, now understands that there is opposition across the state in regards to from dental students and dental programs regarding the change in that dental assistant bill, which really would not require our dental assisting students to come in and be certified with coronal polishing and radiological technology that's used when the dental assistant goes in and does the x-rays. right now, we're all protected as a patient that they've
Yeah.
actually been licensed. That would eliminate it. And so we're kind of arguing against that we think that should still be there, some type of protection. And so right now, that's kind of in a holding pattern. Senate Bill 1189, which is the political subdivisions are prohibited from enacting ordinances, rules, or policies that prohibit gun shows from occurring or that primarily affect gun shows. So what that would mean is right now, you as the local governing board have that right as us, as a political subdivision, to establish gun policies on campus, which right now there are no guns allowed on campus. So if somebody wanted to come in and do a gun show on our campus and rent our space, we couldn't say no according to this, according to your policies. The state would override your individual local control of the gun control. So we have been monitoring that one, and we have shared our opposition as an AC 14 to that.
Our opposition meaning
That we would want to control whether or not gun shows would be on campus based on your current gun policy that you establish as board. So those are the legislative updates that we have been following. The other thing too, on some campus events, again, many events, and we're so excited about everything that's going on. Over the last month, we have been conducting listening sessions. Wanted to share just a little bit of information from our student listening sessions. Really, we've had a count of just over 40 students that we had a chance to listen to. Many positive comments. But the one thing that we did realize, there were 4 areas of concern from students. One was on a bookstore and book purchasing, book returns and all of that. So we're following up with Follett on any issues and concerns there. Julie Kerwick, who does a lot of work with the Follett contract. So we are going to continue to monitor that and make sure there's improvements. We're a year into the contract, so it's a good time for us to provide feedback. So we are working with students on that. There were some concerns about veteran support, which Dr. Culver was able to jump on right away and provide some assistance. We also heard about an online engagement with the faculty and more specifically with adjuncts rather than our full-time faculty, that some students felt like they're just not the same engagement from an adjunct online versus the full-time. And so there'll be continued work and assessment of that. And the other one that came up was more students are voicing more food options on each of our campuses, especially our southern campuses. And so we are, thanks to Tremaine and thanks to Jenny, we'll be looking at what are those options that we could better provide for our students. More of our students are actually staying on campus. You can see more student activity, student engagement, student clubs. So they're actually spending a little bit more time on campus, and for their availability of grabbing a really good lunch in Lake Havasu or there isn't anything. So we do have a kitchen in Kingman. How do we best utilize that? How do we best set something up in Lake Havasu? And luckily we have a culinary program, which provides kind of a lunch option with their salad bar down in Bullhead. But we'll continue to look at all of those options. But those were 4 concern areas that we are currently trying to address and work with our students on that. We also had community advisory councils. They have all gone very, very well with great feedback. Jenny was able to review the facilities master plan for each of the campus locations, similar to what was asked after we had that chance last month to try to start getting community feedback. So we started on that process as well. Our instructional deans talked about academic master plans and some potential new programs coming to those campus locations. We also did a lot of Q&A, and James did just a quick overview of where we're currently at with the branding committee, which is gathering some information to bring back to you all as a board. And there's general excitement about the facilities master plan. Heard a lot of really good comments there about the potential future, comments about athletics starting up. So generally really good feedback. And then also we've been talking with employees, with employee listening sessions. We have one more left, but Tim has been able to go over changes that you all and also employees last semester and students were able to provide us on the strategic plan and some potential wording changes for the mid-plan review. So we're getting close to be able to bring some items back to you on that after the second round with our employees. So Madam Chair, those are the items I have for my report, and I'll stand for any questions before we move on.
Well, that's a good hefty list. I have a lot of questions about a lot of those things that I can get in front of us. So looks like we're gonna be really busy. All right, great. Yes, Susan.
Over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years, we've gone through this lunch issue several times, and they seem to always crash and burn.
We're looking for an innovative, different way to provide food services. on
Food trucks.
That would be amazing.
So popular. You know, it's just frustrating. We see good people come in and try to start a business, and then it crashes and burns. And it's disappointing for them and just doesn't look good for us and the public. So, anyhow.
And food service is restauranting is one of the most difficult businesses to get
Yes,
and make it
yes.
successful.
Yes.
Dr. Rassad's done some great on-campus experiments with food trucks on the Kingman campus, so that's going on now, and we're just really looking at pulling whatever threads of possibility we can find to see if we can find as a fit for our campuses.
And then the only issue usually with food trucks is nutrition. You know, but anyhow, okay, thank you. Good job, thanks, Jason.
Any other questions or comments? It's Candida, anything from Candida? I didn't want to forget her. Okay, all right.
No other items from my end, and I think we'll be moving it forward to instructional.
Yeah,
new instructional
number
programs.
11.
Yeah, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Klippenstein. As part of our ongoing academic master planning efforts, as you know, with your approval, we certainly can move some of these new program proposals forward. And so Dr. Weiss is here today to talk about two health programs that we would like to move forward with your approval.
Good morning. Good morning. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein, thank you for the opportunity to present on these two programs. The first one we talked about briefly last month. I don't expect you to remember it, so I'll go through that one. I appreciate the frank discussion about the need for additional financial information, so thank you for that. It was a great lesson going back through this. So if we could go ahead and progress. So the first one that I'm going to present on is the diagnostic medical sonography, also known as ultrasound program. Okay. This will be an Associate of Applied Science degree, pending all approvals from you, HLC, and all the accrediting agencies. The plan is to launch this in August of 2025. It will be initially housed on the Mohave campus. The purpose of this program really is to prepare graduates to come out and perform safe, accurate imaging for patients, right? Generally, the imaging is being done for the purpose of diagnosis. Okay, so there's also there's a time component, right? So we need them to be accurate and not have to do multiple assessments on us, right? So that's really the purpose. It is going to address some local workforce needs. We did hear through our RadTech Community Advising Board, similar representation on that board, and they were all in agreement that this was a needed service in the county. They have a lot of folks who will be retiring soon, and so they were excited to have this program. It does need to get accredited through the Commission on Accreditation of Allied Health Education Programs, and then that doesn't need to happen until the first cohort gets ready to. Anticipated enrollment will be 20 students per admission. Initially, we're going to start at one admission a year. We just want to get it off the ground, see how things go. Do we need additional space? Do we need faculty? What's the attraction? You have a question?
One admission.
Of 20 students.
Of 20 students.
One admission, right.
Thank you.
Yes.
So one group.
One group. So
one
in
class,
fall.
whatever.
Yeah, we admit every fall.
Thank you.
Cohort. So the curriculum, we have a single prerequisite of IO 160, which is very nice for our students. Many of our health programs have 2 years worth of prerequisite courses. So our students get to make a decision and get into their program of desire very quickly, which helps with Jack's persistence issue and completion. So it's very exciting. 68 to 69 credits, inching closer to the 60, which is where we want to be for an associate degree. A lot of these programs require so many clinical hours that it makes it challenging. This particular one, 25 of those credits are for clinical. The students will get 1,125 clinical hours, meaning they will be at the facilities in our county practicing. It will take 7 semesters to complete. We're going to offer it in a variety of modalities so that students who perhaps don't live in Bullhead City can attend lecture remotely via Zoom, and then just have to travel to Bullhead once a week for lab. The comment about curriculum map and assessment plan, it's really just a note to tell you that through our curriculum and assessment department, all new programs are coming out of the gate with an assessment plan. Okay, this will help us with our compliance with HLC. It will also help higher learning commissioners. It will also help us to ensure that what we think our students are learning, they are actually learning, and we're being successful with that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So back to the other slide. You said that here that there's only one prereq. So are there usually more than one prereq? And will this one prereq still result in students being properly prepared to finish the program? Because again, persistence, right? We want them to finish.
Yes, so the programs have prerequisite knowledge to come into the program, and then there's other general education courses that they can take while they're in the program. So the program has been built so that they take Bio 160 before they come in, and that is sufficient for them to be successful in that first semester. And then the second semester and third will include other gen ed courses, English 101, things like that. So they will get what they need sprinkled throughout the actual program.
So when you present it like that, I'm thinking there must be a rhythm to which courses they take so that they continue to be prepared for the program, right?
Yes.
They don't just.
Oh, no. So, no, so you've heard us talk about guided pathways, right? So the pathways are developed in a way that the student can take a class and learn and bring that knowledge forward so that then the core program can build on that knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, so it's very strategic how we
Dr.
build it.
Singer, in our health programs, prereq really means you have to do it before you can apply for the program.
Oh, so does it mean that it's a prerequisite,
Prerequisite.
meaning that you have knowledge that you have to acquire prior to getting into this program?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And that's a change for our programs, right? We historically have had you need to know all this before you start. But when you really look at it, they don't need it before they start. They might need it 2 semesters later. So we're strategically moving that around. So that
It's
they can
designed
apply.
to reduce time to completion. Rather than doing this bunch and then that bunch and taking 6 years, we'll do this.
In bio,
Thank you.
160 isn't basic bio. Right, I mean.
It is a big
It's not, but it is.
100 level. It's a broad class.
Okay.
Right, so our bio 201 is very specific with body systems, but bio 160 is a little more general. And the reason this program picks that one is because they need to know, while they need to know about every part of the body, they need to know more specific than the biology is going to go into. So they will teach that in the program. Okay, so this is a general understanding so that now I can tell you as a sonographer, here's what you're looking for. Here's what it feels like. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sure.
Any other questions? No. Okay.
Just briefly, the job market analysis. So I already mentioned our local partners are in favor of this program. They've got increased vacancy, increased upcoming retirements. The income potential is quite decent, as you can see, with the average being 91,000. 10% below that are at 69 and 10% are at 106. A very decent wage.
So when they do that was one of my big questions coming up, where are they gonna work? How much are they gonna make? And what about their clinical placements? Are we gonna have an issue with that, or is this gonna be relatively easy to do?
So we, the program directors and we determine the enrollment capacity based on clinical placement opportunities.
Okay.
Okay, because it would be a shame to say we can take 20, but we can only place 10 of you. So
The problem years ago with phlebotomy or something, they couldn't get the.
So
clinical.
we've learned to do it
Okay.
a little bit backwards, right? How many can you take community? That's our capacity, right? And then we work with them to build that capacity. Yes. So they will go to hospitals, they will go to urgent cares, anywhere where you can get an X-ray, an ultrasound. If they do an X-ray, they generally do ultrasound. So freestanding facilities, hospitals, they can travel.
So the income potential, is that for Mohave County or for Arizona or for? What's your?
This is for the county, according to Lightcast. Lightcast, you got our workforce.
That's good for.
Yeah.
Our area.
I think I'm gonna have to roll.
I think they retirement gig, I suppose.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Okay, so. Trustee McAlpine. Put your glasses on, I saw that.
Mine's down
Okay.
here.
Okay, so we have a breakdown of the financial survey. So top half is the cost. Obviously, these are estimated costs, right? Salaries and benefits for a part-time medical director, a full-time program director, and a full-time clinical coordinator. Those three positions are required by the accrediting agency. Okay. So that's $221,000. One of those individuals, the program director, is currently employed by us in the Rad Tech program. She deserves a shout out. She developed this program while she was doing her full-time job for us. So we're very appreciative of that. The equipment for year one, there's a note there that is non-recurring, $108,000.
That's the machine we were talking about last month.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have had a donation of some equipment, that we're estimating its value at about $40,000. And that was 4 portable used ultrasound machines from Kingman Regional Medical Center. This program doesn't use a lot of consumable supplies compared to some of the other programs. So we're looking at about $2,500 a year for that. Accreditation fees, about $2,100. We have to pay them to allow us to stay accredited for the next year. Pass-through costs, so those are our course fees that students pay that we then use to buy objects or services for them that they will take with them, right? So any equipment, a stethoscope, these guys don't use a stethoscope, but that's what came to my mind. A stethoscope, some of the standardized testing that they'll get additional knowledge from. So that's our pass-through cost. The course fees are low, reasonable. $750, 2 courses. So $1,500 for the life of a 2-year program, which you know is very low compared to some of our programs, right? And then some travel and training expenses of $6,000. The bottom is the projected revenue. So for 20 students taking 35 credit hours the first year, using our 91 credit, which is our approved increase for tuition, you can see that the tuition revenue is $63,700. We've got our fees for 1 year.
Just one thing, that's an in-state scenario.
Yes.
If there's a WUI student or an out-of-state student, that's,
It's gonna be more.
we just minimized it.
Yes. Fees. Again, the course fees, 750 times the number of students. Our FTSE production, our full-time student equivalent. I thought I was getting into a business where I didn't need math. Right. Some of this was new to me, which was so interesting. It was so nice to actually know how these programs have been funded over the years. So 20 students at 35 hours. We've got about 23 FTSE. You can see that generates about $105,000. Currently not looking at any grants.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the 20 students, that's one cohort. So we're gonna have one cohort a year, or will there be multiple cohorts?
One cohort a year initially,
A
one
year.
admission a year.
So one admission a year.
Yeah.
So only one
So that's-
group of 20 going through.
Right, and then the next fall, we could have another one.
But you still have that 20 or something.
We'd still have them for another year.
So your calculation is very conservative.
Right,
that's what I'm saying.
Cohort.
Yes,
That's where I was
and this
headed.
is only,
You're
this
gonna
is
have
only the first
overlap.
year.
Okay, you're gonna be overlapped. Okay,
This is only year one.
okay, got it. Thank you.
And so property tax in this scenario, okay, 40% of property tax would be used to cover and balance out the revenue and expenses. I want to point out that this is just for year one because of that equipment. When that goes away, for the years we don't need equipment, that 40% goes down to 24%.
Repeat that again.
Thank you.
Okay, so this 1 year of equipment, the $108,000. After year one, that expense goes away. We won't need to buy that equipment every year. So when that goes away, the percentage of property tax that we're gonna use goes down to 24%. How can
So,
I say this differently?
yeah, so tuition, fees, and footsie production are in year one are 60% of the, cover 60% of the program costs. So if you add up those columns on the right, that should add up to 60% of the program cost in year one. Which means we just arbitrarily say, well, where do we get the rest of the money?
Yeah, right.
It's 40% in its general fund, taxpayer-based allocation, right?
So my numbers came out different. The way I did it, taxpayers were 60%.
Oh, well, no, the first three, if you add up the first three,
These three here.
These three here,
Are 60%.
these three here,
Okay, I didn't add in the.
those make up,
yeah, footsie.
those make up the 60 and that's 40.
Okay, yeah.
And it's just whatever the complement is we put in the taxpayer allocation, right? So in year two, when you don't have $108,000 up top and it comes down to 200 or whatever it is, right? Then the taxpayer allocation goes down even further because the first three cover more of the cost.
So the bottom line is that upside down number you have, the 33, it's not really, we're not really upside down.
We're not, it's rounding is what it is.
Rounding.
If you only use 1 decimal point, it's gonna do that. If you use 9 decimal points, it comes out to 0.
Okay.
Why are they nothing?
I don't know, but for years I thought my program has lost a ton of money. This helped me sleep a little better at night, knowing that we actually balance out a little bit. So, yes. The goal is to get-
And by the way, all programs will be this way, the same model. If we did this for business students, right, there would be very little taxpayer allocation because they don't have all those expenses that healthcare has, right? And so there'd be very little footsie and tuition and program or pass-through costs, which I don't think they have any, Jason. That business doesn't have pass-through, do they?
Not at this point,
Not
no.
at this point. So tuition. Tuition and fees for business or tuition fees and footsie for business students would more than cover business programs. Because they have a volume, they have 150 students versus 20 students here, right? So the same model works for any program.
But I think this is a really good exercise because it really gives us a snapshot of what we're doing here when we turn a program on. This is really what it comes down to. I think it's an important.
Well, I think, Linda and Dr. Culver worked on this and then, got my input. Linda's and her business office and Jenny have done a lot over the last year or two regarding transparency with respect to budget. I mean, Jason and Lucinda will tell you, we didn't know this. Program directors or dean, we didn't know this. So this is great. I mean, this is so informative for us, right? And so I can take this and say, if I can impact this, I can impact this and then impact this, right? So yes, we will be using this for all new programs and then going back and retrofitting the old ones.
And also, nobody else knows this yet, but we're also using it for academic program review.
Right.
To determine viability of programs that are already in existence.
Yeah. So we have
Don't tell them that to kids though.
have several questions. Somewhere along the line, you mentioned that the accreditation doesn't have to be done until the first class graduates.
The first cohort graduates, yes.
Okay, so that's 2 years from now.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. And where's my brain going? Is
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
7?
7.
Okay.
17.
Between the two, and I know we haven't got to the other one yet, we're talking 500,000, 600,000, close to what, five something, 100,000 for salaries and benefits. Budget for next year is gonna be able to absorb that.
Yes, in our budget planning, when we looked at personnel requests and accepted, these are all part of the personnel request to come in.
Okay.
So when we looked at how much revenue we have, how much personnel requests we could do, plus the employee comp, these were high priority, so these were
Okay.
adjusted or adapted into or adopted into the budget,
Okay.
in the budget plan.
Yeah, and technically, this program director is already being paid in the RADTAG program. And we're not,
Okay, so
we won't backfill her position, so really,
Okay.
we've already got her salary.
Some of it's
Oh,
some
wait, you don't need a
duplication.
clinical coordinator in RadTech?
Right, we already have one
Okay.
that's gonna take her place.
Okay, I'll remember that one.
I'm right.
Everybody remember that one.
Right here. Oops.
Obviously, you are going to evaluate, assess, change, edit, whatever you need to do over the next 3 years. What's the minimum number of students you are going to accept? I don't want to put it out in a negative way, so it crashes and burns.
Correct.
I want it out to the universe. What's the
Correct.
minimum number of students that you'll accept to let the program run?
You know, I think that's a discussion. I mean, historically, we've said 10 is our go or no go. But I also know that there are a lot of initiatives that start, and when they don't do what we want them to do right away, we stop. And so I would like to give it time. So
We have about 400 pre-health students who are funding to get into nursing and other programs. We don't believe that would be a problem for this one, maybe?
But if so, what we try to do with the program review is that this would go under a program review and we'll look, if it's only gonna average 7, let's say, and we are projecting with Lightcast data over time, we might not see a bump. Well, we'll have to make that tough decision. Is that a?
yeah, yes,
But we do that with all programs.
right. Or can I decrease this in any way to have a positive impact on that, right? And that's what this table allows us to do.
Yeah.
Right, so to Dr. Culver's point, we ran a report, we being recruiting ran a report of all the students who have already taken Bio 160. And there's several hundred of them. Yes, and so we can target them and say, hey, we've got the respiratory program potentially coming forward and this. So that, you know, maybe they think they know what they want to do, but maybe that was their second choice. So.
Yeah, so we hope this satisfies, Susan, the question that you asked last time. Is this sufficient?
Yeah. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, we have another one.
Scary, yes.
Yeah, we have another one to do, and I know we're short on
Yeah.
time, so.
I think the
just
second one's
wanna
gonna
make sure
be
we're-
easier.
Yeah.
Because.
Okay.
And then you're thinking go September?
So this would go August of 2025 pending
Okay.
approval from all accreditation bodies.
I love this idea, but I'd love to see it, not now, but at some point, the life cycle for these courses, because, you know, you start out here and then it's gonna grow, it's gonna mature. Before it starts to decline, what are we gonna do to make sure it continues? Because we can't just dump programs because they're kind of take a little dip. We might need to,
Right.
you fine tune.
Exactly.
So we continue before we decide it's something's gonna decline. So I think in looking at the bigger picture strategically, that's something we might want to think about doing long term.
Good.
Yeah, okay.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a recommendation that the board approve the diagnostic medical sonography AAS degree for implementation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can I comment before?
Okay, comment?
I this is really great and I know very much needed and I hope or wonder how it can build on, so like you said, usually when there's an X-ray, there's also an ultrasound. And we have a program for X-ray technicians, is that correct?
Right.
Okay, thank you. So I would assume they would also be very interested, some of them in it doesn't align, it's additional.
It's a
Okay.
very specific job and it's
Totally
different.
equipment and all that, sure, okay.
And
Well, that's not to say someone wouldn't, but it's not typical.
But we have a non-credit option for those red tech students to go through. Right.
And I know personally, people who have gone through that and then wanted to advance and had to do that in another location, so.
And so before we vote, to be absolutely clear, define implementation.
Implementation would be the first cohort of students would be taking classes in August of 2025.
Thank you.
That would be up to 20 students as well.
Okay, we have a motion?
I second. Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you. We have one more, the RCP.
Yep.
So, Paul's doing that for me. The RCP is the Respiratory Care Practitioner Program, formerly known as respiratory therapy. There's a push in the industry to have a title that reflects more accurately what they do. So, sure, the respiratory therapy program is 60 credits. We were able to get it to 60 credits, yay. It has a Bio 160 prerequisite, but also has a Math 121, and we're looking at whether or not at some point we just say you have to be able to place into 121. So, but again, not a lot of lag time for students before they actually get into the program that they want to do. It is an associate's degree, Associates of Applied Science degree. You can go. Okay. It addresses regional workforce needs, accreditation through the Commission on Accreditation for Respiratory Care. This one's slightly different than the rest of the programs in that you have to have a provisional accreditation before you can actually admit students. Yes. Yes.
So what does that entail?
So, it's a self-study, it's having advisory board meetings, it's pulling together some initial data and information on the college. But we are ready for that. Little typo here. We're gonna take up to 24 students. Again, one admission per year. And so that would give us 72 students over 3 years. This right here is just a quick summary of a note from Paul Rice. He's the Director of Respiratory Therapy at Kingman Regional Medical Center. This was a snippet from a letter of support that Kingman Regional provided to us. It will give us clinical sites. Next, please. 60 credits, prereqs to 18 months to complete. So we're trying, again, to be very nimble with our offerings. Flexible modalities, you can come in person, you can attend via Zoom, synchronously. 18 months to complete. It's not much less than 24, but it's 6 months, right? 6 months of earnings. The curriculum map and the assessment plan are completed. So Dr. Singer, to your point, that allows us to do that continuous assessment to know if our programs are delivering. Next slide, please.
And the course maps are done, they're seeing if you want to see them, we have.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So interestingly, during COVID, these were heroes and they make a lot less than an ultrasound tech, right? The average is 80 versus 91, 92, but still a decent wage for this area. The local clinical partners are absolutely in support of this. Some of them have offered to come and guest lecture or teach part-time. Next slide. Okay. So very similar to the previous program, salary and benefits. We also are required to have a medical director, a program director, and a clinical
Is
coordinator.
it the same person? Different person from the different person?
Three different people. Three different people. The accrediting agencies will not allow the program director to be the clinical coordinator because they want to ensure the program director is administering the program, paying attention to the quality. That program director is already hired, has been working, modifying the program, working on the self-study. She's actually also been teaching for the other programs. She's been teaching for every program we have when they get to their respiratory topics. She's been helping students in lab. It's been quite nice. Equipment, year one, non-recurring, $66,000. This is for 2 ventilators, brand new ventilators, as well as CPAP, which is a continuous pressure something. It's a mask that Julie's laughing. I'm clearly not a respiratory therapist. It pushes air to keep your airways open when you pee.
Something's up.
Which I've been there. Consumable supplies, again, not very high. We're going to a centralized inventory management system. So we're gonna have better control over the consumables that we use. Accreditation fees are a bit higher this first year. And that's because we have to have a site visit as part of that provisional accreditation, okay? Subsequent years would be more in the $2,200. Pass-through costs, still keeping them very reasonable for students. And then the $6,000 for travel and training. And then you see the same computations here for tuition, fees, and subsidy production. This one's at a 19.5% of property tax, and that goes down to 0.
And the same impacts with, if we have non-recurring up there, right? And-
Goes to 0.
Goes to 0.
Okay.
Yep, same impact.
We're gonna make $109 on this.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Hey, I'll take it.
And the logic behind this is more students, more footsie, less general fund. Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay.
This will be housing Seaman. It has the opportunity to be offered in a variety of locations. It's just sharing a nursing lab. So it's just a scheduling. We don't need to have a brand new lab space built or anything like that. And we have portable equipment, so we can take lab wherever we need it.
Okay, great. Ashley?
Well, now I have a question and then I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Are there clinical opportunities in other communities or only in Keenan right now?
No, there'll be clinical opportunities in all of our communities.
Okay.
Yes.
Then I'd like to make.
If we do that, definition of implementation is the same as the other.
So this one, the plan, pending all approvals from accrediting agencies, January of 2025. We don't normally start programs in spring, but we don't want to wait either. We've got people who are ready to go. So we're going to start it in spring and then it'll step back to a fall admission after
We just
that.
need the provisional first.
We just need the provisional first.
Thank you, Ashley. Go for it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the board approves the respiratory therapy AAS degree for implementation.
Okay, do I have a second? Second, okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Anita voted to.
Kavita, left at noon.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for doing all of
Excellent.
that.
For asking us to do it.
Tremendous amount of work, but it really helps
Thank you
us.
for asking us. It's very exciting for the deans to be able to have that picture. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Okay. So we have, do we have, let me ask a question of you, Dr. Wilson. Time issue here?
There is no time issue.
Oh, okay, yes, I thought someone said that's an example. Okay.
No, we're just, some people might. Like, there is no time.
All right, Jenny, item number 12, Administrative Services Report.
You want that slide?
Yeah, some of that slide up first. So I am joined today by my Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Klippenstein. I'm joined today by members of the IT team, Lon Hornick, who is the Director of IT Services, and Jonathan, who is our brand new VMware Administrator. You might have recognized him from being our support person at all the board meetings and.
Well, I saw so, but I didn't look.
Yes, he did this thing.
I saw one, but I thought.
We have several items that we are going to go over. The first, nope, not this one, the one that says college technology.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
That one right there, yep. Perfect, this first one is going to be quick unless you have a lot of detailed questions, but we wanted to just give an update on where we're at. About 3 years ago, we adopted a whole lot of new technology that we were implementing. So we wanted to kind of go over where we are at with each of those implementations. The first thing we're looking at is NEOED, that's our Human Resources Information System, HRIS. We are fully implemented in all of the 8 modules in that system. So employee information, time and attendance, which are time cards and leave, payroll, the benefit module, performance evaluation module, the recruiting and onboarding, the employee learning module, and the document workflow. All of those are 100% implemented and are in use. And I will say probably out of all of our implementations, the easiest, smoothest one, thanks to Jennifer Picard and her team, who did a lot of behind the scenes work to make sure there were minimal problems. And shout out to NeoGov, who's been very, very responsive to our needs and given us a lot of attention as soon as we need it. So things have gone really well. We will continue to use this system as long as it benefits us and we can go forward under procurement rules. So full speed ahead with the HRIS. Next, we're looking at the employee resource, enterprise resource management, or the ERP as we call it. It is colleague product from Elucian. You can see that we are mostly 100% done. We are still working with the Bursar on real-time payment plans for students, not because we have something to do, but colleague is still working on their connection on the outside. So we are waiting on colleague to finish up some of their work in the programming on the backside. So almost done, not quite. If you look at data migration, we are still slowly but surely working through it. Data migration is a tedious, slow process. We have all the migration into the new ERP that we need for current students. Now it's going back and grabbing some of that historical data tied to Anna's presentation about returners, Anna and Jack. Sometimes we have students that come back that have been gone for a year, 2 years, 5 years, and we have to be able to go back and grab their data out of the old system and push it into the new system. And we are methodically working through that year by year, and about a little less than 50% done at this point. And then last of all, you see about 30% done with the Advise module, CRM, which is Customer Relationship Manager. The Advise module, we started that one in January. We are on track to be finished with it in a relatively appropriate amount of time, and hoping to have that into the hands of our advisors so that they can have more tools to be more effective in the way that they're advising our students. Really happy with this look. At this point, most of these, if we hit 100%, we're in phase 2, which means phase 2 of the implementation is we are learning how to master those tools, because we all had a very steep learning curve. We are learning to master. We're figuring out where we have little hiccups that we need to streamline and fix, and really making that ERP tool work for Mohave Community College. Learning management system is one bar, so like not right, 100% complete. Configuration. Learning management system is Canvas. Our faculty are using it successfully. They're finding new ways to make the management of their courses more dynamic, more interesting. We have the Center for Teaching and Learning led by Jeanette Bristol, doing a fabulous job working with all of our faculty and picking up some new tips and tricks on how to
to configure and build their courses in a way that really benefits our students. So coming up next, obviously IT work is never done, never. The HRIS, ERP, LMS, will continue that phase 2 refinement and mastery. We'll just keep refining it, fixing the hiccups and learning how to use our tools better. CRM Recruit and CRM Advise, we are working on adding the texting functionality so that we can communicate with our students. I don't know if you know too many 18 to 24-year-olds, but those students, they don't want an email even. We have to communicate with them in the way that they communicate, and we need to get that texting function up and going. Insights is a brand new reporting module for our ERP colleague that will increase the reporting functions and make it easier for our teams to pull reports. We have on colleague, we are working on building out that residence life module. It was part of the original purchase and we did a little bit with it, but now that we have students coming to live on campus, we are working to finish the configuration and have that module built so that we can use that to manage our residence life work. And then we are working on selecting non-credit catalog registration and badging solutions, something that will help the non-credit team with, and if you've been here over the years, we've gone round and round with all sorts of different ideas about how do we make the non-credit catalog easily accessible, easy to read, easy to register for, how do we provide that badging, that mini accreditation, that mini credentials, that follows them, that they can be proud of, that they did that, and continue to work on selecting that one and getting it up on its legs and moving forward. Are there any questions about that report?
Looks good.
Okay, thank you.
You
Next.
touched on Canvas earlier, is that item B? Did you include it all or is that?
No, it is a separate item.
Okay.
So our next item, Canvas, it seems like it was only yesterday that we started the new implementation, but we are at the end of our 3-year contract with Canvas, our learning management system. In the state of Arizona, we have the opportunity to renew a contract for up to 2 1-year extensions after the 3-year contract. And so now that we finally mastered and are on top of Canvas, we would greatly appreciate an extension of that contract so that we can continue to use Canvas as our LMS for our faculty and students to manage every single offering that we have. We can answer any questions if there are additional questions about that.
I do. I have questions.
Okay.
So is there an increase from the last 3-year contract?
For the renewal that we're proposing?
Yeah.
Since it's not under contract, there is an increase. But during the 3-year contract, the pricing slightly went down for the 2nd year and then went up for the 3rd year, but it wasn't as much as the 1st year. I can give you
So for year 4, what's going to happen?
So year 1 was, I have my reading glasses on and I'm old.
$109,982.02.
Okay. Just shy of 110. Year 2 was 91, more or less.
Yep.
Year 3 is 95, and we are going to 104.5. So it's a balance of those first 3 years, more or less.
And then the second question is, I need my glasses. In the monthly financial report, it states that within the next 2 weeks, we'll be receiving $780,000 in state aid payments. And in 6 weeks, we're going to be receiving approximately $7.5 million in property taxes. Has any of that money shown up?
That's a little question.
Yes, when I checked on the revenue income from last week, we did receive some of the state aid, or Prop 301 payment came in, and property taxes go into like a county account,
and build up, and then it transfers to us. And we haven't gotten that big transfer yet.
So what have we gotten so far?
Since I did that report. Actually, I wrote it down. This is the total that I expect. I believe we've received about 130, 150,000.
Thank you.
Since I did that report, yes.
Yes, Ashley,
Can I make a motion?
you may.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the expenditure of $104,483.69 for 1 year renewal. That includes the Canvas LMS cloud subscriptions tier 1 and 24/7 support.
Okay, and our second?
Second.
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next, VX rail support. This is way technically above my head, which is like Jonathan standing here. But the way he described it to me is VX rail supports and cares and looks after our servers. And so with the cost of servers, it's like buying a Ferrari and not insuring it.
Or warranty.
Or warranty, no warranty on it, because VX rail support is the process by which our servers are maintained and protected and have warranty if something goes wrong, that they replace it for us on that system. You want to provide a little bit more about what VX Rail does for us?
Yes, and just a little caveat on that, it's actually Dell is gonna be supporting the VX Rails.
Gotcha.
The VX Rails, we have 9 physical servers in our data center in Las Vegas, and they run something called, it's really technical, I won't bore it with you, but it's something called hyper-converged infrastructure. And so we don't have to have for every, like Tableau, for Canvas, for EagleSoft, for our dental clinic, we don't have to have a single appliance for every single app that we have. It puts them all into one. And it runs our entire college, everything. And not having that support, not being able to say, hey, I had a drive go bad, which we had a couple months ago, we had 2 permanent drive failures. And we were able to get thousands of dollars worth of drives next business day. We were able to fix it. We have a lot of issues to fix still. I'm working with Dell engineers that actually work with a lot of the North America team already and some of the Japan team. They're very knowledgeable. Having a principal engineer in your back pocket is very useful. And it is an absolute necessity for us to keep this. We've already had it before, but I think
It's a renewal of an existing service that we've.
Yeah, and I think it's up a little bit more because they used to be staggered. We had support for each individual thing, but now we're getting them all at once.
Which is a cost savings measure as well, that we bundled them together as opposed to having different services for different appliances, correct? Okay. Additionally, this kind of expert service, if we have a mission critical issue and we don't want to lose days and weeks that our systems are down because we can't get something back up again. And so with their guarantee and their expertise, if something truly terrible happened to a server and now we can't log into Colleague anymore, and we're like, oh no, it's 2 weeks before the start of the fall semester and no students can enroll any longer.
Oh no.
This is, the big oh no. This is the type of service that they get us up in hours, not days and weeks. So it keeps us on functioning in real time.
Okay, great, promotion?
I have a question and I can make a motion, I'm happy to. Just, pros or cons about the 1 year renewal. You had mentioned in the other one that that's all that's allowed, but is that the same for this?
We're under the same, under state procurement, there are only certain amounts of time that you can use for a contract. And so, and with 1 year renewals.
3 years and then 2 1-year renewals.
And then my question would be, do we, the college, currently have those funds in hand?
Yes, so that would be the IT project budget, where we budgeted about $1.3 million at the beginning of the year for all of these kinds of things, because they know ahead of time, this expires the next year, this expires. And so far we have, with a minimal amount of time left that we can actually spend, we have $700,000 of that money still left in the budget for them to spend for this and for that next item as well.
Thank you.
I'd like to move that we approve the expenditure of $154,745.86 for a one-year renewal of support services with the X-ray.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great, thank you. Last of all,
Yes, last of all, we are looking at asking for approval for the refresh of the technology in the NCK room 240. It is a large multi-purpose room. At this point, the equipment, we're starting to see some failures, microphone failures, all of the stuff that keeps us connected. With those things failing, it makes it an unusable room that we need to start replacing the technology in. Again, the amount for this covers the entire, all of the technology that we need to replace in the room. And it is well within, again, that $700,000 that's still left in the IT project budget.
okay, thank you.
I did have a question about this, and I'd asked Dr. Klippenstein earlier, and I know he talked to Tim about it. What has been the utilization of that room? Tremaine, I'm sorry, I thought it was going to be Tim, I'm
I
sorry.
would give you a bad answer.
Yeah, over the past 4 or 5 years, it's been pretty consistent coming back from COVID.
Yes.
For instance, in 2022, we had a number of 71 events for a total of 76 days of use.
I'm sorry, how many days?
76.
76 days, okay, thank you.
23, 105.
Okay,
And so far in 24, we've had 40 days of use.
40.
And that is a full day or a portion of a day? You're talking 8 hours, 2 hours?
Part of the workday.
Probably part of workday, because
Not every event.
with each of that, there's sometimes multiple events that happen during the day. Lot also pulled some numbers as far as the IT utilization, so the time is that IT has been called for, which is not all the time. So for sometimes like people have a staff meeting and if they're comfortable with their room, they'll just go in and use it without having to have IT support.
Do you have any utilization from before 22? Are you talking about fiscal year 22? Or academic year? You call it?
Calendar year.
I forgot, yeah.
I think Lon has some IT utilization before COVID.
Yes, and I did my fiscal year.
Thank you.
So in 17-18, that we received 43 tickets. 18-19, we had 51. 19-20, 57, but then the tickets stopped coming in due to COVID and we went work from home. During 2021, we were slowly coming back, so there was 13 tickets, half part of that fiscal year. 21-22, we have 47. 23-24, we have 31, and that's still ongoing till June 30th. And then we also have one in advance for the next fiscal year.
And I think, Mike, and thank you for that data, I appreciate it very much. Is going ahead with refresh makes perfect sense in my mind, I'm speaking only for myself, but I'm also concerned that the room isn't utilized prior to all these technology concerns. I mean, there's other reasons to use that room, and I understand the use of technology in meetings, but it doesn't seem like this meeting room itself has been utilized. So it is my hope, and I will make a motion that we approve the expenditure of $280,586.73 for the NCK large multi-purpose room 240 technology refresh. I will make that motion and then I would like a comment before we vote. Thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, this is for a second, and then discussion?
Yeah, I would like to suggest or encourage more utilization. That's been my concern, not how many tickets or the lack of technology. I understand that. But more utilization of that room. And if it isn't used, then there's no real sense in throwing money back into the room. That's my concern.
And then My thought would be, I mean, we're looking at this advanced manufacturing training center that goes up and down and up and down. And, when I looked at the number, I thought, we're building this, hope to be building this big educational component for the college, and wouldn't the $280,000 kind of go a little bit of a way to make up for grant money that we may have turned away or something else that happens? So I don't know if that is possible to use that kind of money that way, but that's where I would rather see it used.
I have a question. Is this room ever rented out to the community? So there is a revenue potential, and of course, having the technology enhances its value as something we can use.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we have it listed out as facilities used by outside agencies, city agencies, state agencies, county, other private folks. And plus we do a lot internally. So when we're doing internal, let's say student recognition ceremonies, we use 240. And then sometimes that's where we've had some difficulty with the IT work when we're trying to do that. It limits, it's our biggest room for us to be able to utilize with almost all employees, but not quite anymore. And, but so we still use it for large, but we do have outside agencies. One of the issues that we've discovered is still some of it is people might see it as still kind of far out there. And so sometimes they might not see us as a college as a place to go to. But those who are coming in, like in May 23rd or whatever it is, we have the four cities governments are coming together and utilizing 240 with Zoom and all of that type of stuff coming in. So we still get some of those external groups. And we would love to do more.
We could do a little marketing, right?
Yeah, we could do more.
Mr. Jarman, he's good at that. Because I would just like to see us use it more. So to your point, especially if it's revenue producing, even better, so.
The refresh really will make it a little bit more attractive for external audiences. We do sometimes talk to folks who say, it's like exactly what we need, or we wish that there could be more.
But initially, that wasn't the case. That's my concern, Tremaine, and I respect your opinion. And we all have opinions, we all are valid opinions, but the room has not been utilized. There's not been any, apparently, real promotion. As Stacy said, not everybody sees it as someplace they want to go. If we're going to put $250,000 into this refresh, then we better hope that there's more utilization and there's more reasons to use it. Does it need to be updated? Sure. That's not even a question. Would it be better having the switch of where it looks so people in the cafeteria area can also see it? Sure. That's not even a question in my mind, but that's my point of discussion. And I think Ashley had a hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I completely in alignment with Julie's thoughts and comments. The only thing I would add is that, when it comes to a need for learning and education, that's a little easier than a room that's just for meetings. So completely in agreement with that, and maybe something to note for future requests as well.
Okay, great. So we have a motion and we have a second. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, great.
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, opposed?
Yes, no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Apologize for that. I thought you said yes.
Congratulations, John. I'm getting to wear a tie to work.
Okay, so our next meeting is in Bullhead on May the 16th. Any comments or questions I make before I go?
That's a
I will adjourn with a workshop, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I can adjourn.
Adjourn the regular meeting.
I have a workshop afterwards.
I won't need it.